We'll call the July 26, 2018 Port meeting to commence. The machine is open for roll call.
Mr. Chairman, today's the 26th.
July 26, 2018.
Gotcha.
Starting at what time, Kim?
116.
1:16. And let the record reflect. That's me. There are 5 sitting council members, 2 are on their way, and 2 will be absent, Mr. Edgecombe and Mr. Byrd. So will you please rise for the prayer, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance right after.
We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and to thank Him for all of beautiful blessing, especially for this parish and natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this government body composed of both council and administration will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, equality to all, and for the wisdom and the knowledge of right to wrong and the courage to do which is right. As this government body gathers here today, we pray that we will be spared from all harm and destruction this hurricane season. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will be chairing the meeting in Mr. Byrd's absence. We'll move to item 2. There's no executive session. So we'll move to item 3, status report.
Status report by the Port Executive Port Director.
Thank you, Ms. Barber.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the board. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period 29 June to 26 July 2018. During this period, the port underwent both an internal and external audit, of which the findings were sent to all board members. The port has updated its policies based on these findings and will be introduced today in order to implement them into our day-to-day functioning. I would like to thank Randy Duke on the internal audit side and Jamie Rogers with Camnetta and Associates on the external audit side for their insight and professionalism. I attended the annual American Association of Port Authorities Executive Director Conference, and one of the topics discussed was terrorism and cybersecurity attacks. We were briefed by the FBI SAC, senior agent in charge, out of Boston, and he has 9 Northeast states that report to him. His remarks were very telling. Cybersecurity needs to be a priority as ports are continually being probed and hacked, and as ports move towards what is deemed blockchain data integration, which provides a common database of information that can be tapped into by shippers, beneficial cargo owners, ports, Homeland Security, U.S. Customs agents, and freight forwarders. Ports have become a larger target for cybersecurity attacks. As a result, I immediately contacted our sheriff, Jerry Turlich, and Captain Lon Boudreaux, who was with the FBI for 25 years, to discuss port operations within this environment. We are planning joint exercises beginning with a complete security assessment of the port office, active shooter drills, and also we'll be coordinating this with our local FBI force. This week, I was informed by the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base skipper, Mark Saccato, that the Undersecretary of the Navy has approved our proposal to introduce commercial air cargo onto the active duty naval base via a joint use of the naval facilities. This is only the second time the Navy has blessed this idea in the United States. This is a huge hurdle we have crossed. Now it is up to us to do an intense market feasibility analysis for a decision to move forward. The commercial use of this base would greatly assist in BRAC-proofing the base, which is the third largest employer in the state, as a portion of the base's overhead costs would be offset by fees paid by commercial airlines. This also complements the port's vision of becoming a total transportation nexus on the Gulf Coast to include all 6 modes of transportation, that being deep water, river water, rail, highway, pipeline, and now commercial air cargo. Lastly, I attended the change of command of Captain Sakata this morning along with the parish president and other parish leaders. It was held at the Joint Reserve Base Naval Air Station in New Orleans. Captain Sakata was very instrumental in shepherding the joint use proposal and was a great military partner with the parish community. Mr. Vice Chairman, subject to your questions or comments, this concludes my Executive Director's report.
Thank you, General Sanders. I don't have any questions. Any other questions from the board? If not, audience? Okay, we'll move on to item 4.
Bids and advertisements.
There are none.
Introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Juneau? Mr. Russo? Ms. Salvant?
I have none.
Okay, I have 2. A resolution adopting the addition and revisions and updates to the accounting policies for Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District, the port, and an ordinance to authorize the Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to enter into a contract with Ayers Security Corporation and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. We'll move over to item 6. Item 6A will be deferred. And Ms. Barber, will you pick up 6B?
6B, a resolution authorizing the Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to execute a preliminary agreement between the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District and Plaquemines Liquids Terminal LLC to finance acquiring land and constructing dock, wharf, and rail improvements, pipeline and pumping infrastructure, blending / storage facility improvements, and any other improvements related thereto, approving the form and authorizing the publication of a notice of public hearing and a notice of intention to sell bonds, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of said bonds, and approving and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing.
Ms. Salvant, you're offering?
Yes, I want to offer with changes, and I think everyone may have the changes in front of them. And if you do, Ms. Barber, I would like you to proceed with the reading of the changes.
The changes appear on page 3, under section 3, on line 90. Well, I'll read the whole section. Section 3, the Executive Director of the issuer and officers of the council are authorized and empowered to take any and all further action and to sign any and all documents, instruments, and writings as may be necessary to carry out the purposes of this resolution. After this word will be, and now we're inserting the change, but limited to preliminary agreement, State Bond Commission approval, IRS approvals, zoning issues, notices under state law and engagement letters, and a turn sheet after consultation with the council, and to file on behalf of the issuer with any governmental board or entity having jurisdiction over the project, such applications or requests for approval thereof as may be required by law. In addition to that copy that was added in, there is a deletion of section 6.
And with those changes, Ms.
With those
Salvant,
changes,
you
I
offer?
offer.
I'll ask for a second. Second by Mr. Juneau.
At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Meredith Hawthorne with Foley and Udall to come to the mic and explain what we are attempting to do here.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so this resolution is the first step in a possible bond issue to benefit Plaquemines Liquid Terminal. What it does is it sets out the parameters for those bond issues, and those parameters are included in Section 1 of the resolution with respect to the principal amount, the interest rate, the maturities. Now, this is a very procedural step in this whole process. We will be back to you once we have more of the details related to the bond structure. But the most important thing that this does is it authorizes the execution of a preliminary agreement, which is very clear that the company itself is responsible for all of the fees related to this deal, whether the bonds are issued or not, that they agree to indemnify you for any and all actions or suits or anything else related to these bonds or the potential for the bonds. And it also makes it very clear that any bonds that would be issued would be their responsibility, that the bonds would be limited obligations of the port payable solely from the payments made by the company under the actual lease agreement when and if that lease agreement is ever executed. Some of the other steps that it authorizes is for us to apply to the Bond Commission, but we will only be going there after we have more details related to the bonds. And it also hires our firm as bond counsel and has the underwriters named as well as the municipal advisor. But again, I want to stress that this is preliminary and we will be back to y'all, but we need this in order to protect y'all and go forward with this transaction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you want me to walk through it.
I think Mr. Bartholomew has a question.
Yes.
Kind of answered, but my main concern is that no way in no time will it have an economic impact on Plaquemine Parish Government Port.
That is correct.
So no matter what happens, we don't have to pay anything.
You do not have to pay these bonds
So
back. I
taxpayers
promise.
don't have to come up with
That is
money.
correct. This is not payable in any respect. It does not create an indebtedness of the port under any constitutional or statutory provision whatsoever, and it is solely the obligation of the company.
And the company will be paying the bond itself.
Correct.
Including
Absolutely.
interest.
And the
whatever.
fees and the
whole
interest
nine
rates and
yards.
everything else.
We're
Yes,
just
sir.
giving an opportunity to get some credit, that's all.
You are putting your name on there in order for them to possibly get IRS tax exempt status. So it is lending your name, but not your credit. A huge difference. So,
So I'm hoping they understand that they will, down the road, donate some money back to the parish to help with this, and helping them with this endeavor.
Sure.
But that's the only question I have, so thank you very much.
I'd be happy to answer any other.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Russo?
Good morning. I don't know that, good afternoon. This question is for you or for the staff. Where are we in the negotiations? We were supposed to have a follow-up meeting, and it was canceled, and we never did have another meeting to kind of catch us up to speed. So can you tell us where we're at with the...
Yes, sir. The folks that gave you that addressed the last meetings are out of the country. I have told them that soon, when I can get them all together and convenient for our board, we will be convening another information meeting to our board, let y'all kick the tires, look under the hood every step of the way. So that will be forthcoming as soon as one of them returns from Korea.
And this document doesn't speed up anything or hinder anything, does it?
No, sir.
So we're strictly at their leisure to when they come back to town?
Yes, sir. I would say at earliest next week. I got to finish this week. He doesn't get back until this weekend. So it'll probably be next week or the week thereafter.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the audience?
I'll go to MSU there. Hey, I have an interest, have been a principal that been set out on this bond. What's the principal amount they want on this bond?
So it's not exceeding $650 million. That is a total maximum amount, and again, it's a parameter, so we do not know what the initial issue and whether it will be in multiple series or not. So it will depend on all of the other entities that are dealing with this company. So this is totally a par amount that is a maximum amount.
$600 million. You know, these guys came here a couple months ago. I was in the council. They over there had the finances for this deal. But now we go into the state And I hope you're going to identify this council, because the people who got to pay taxes didn't have to pay this deal. At the same time, they're doing this just to get a tax break. Gosh, man, when are people going to get a tax break? You know, we got to stop this, man. We really got to stop this. Got to stop this, man. The parish need money. The parish need money. You come there promising all this, put your money where your mouth is. And I want to congratulate the colonel and his staff on his ranking.
The bond. All right, any other questions from the audience? Let the record reflect, Councilman Black is present. Okay, with that, the machine is open. It's granted 6-0. Move to item 6C.
An ordinance to amend and as amended readopt ordinance number 15-138, which established a policy of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District relative to the solicitation and receipt of proposals for professional services from the port prior to employment and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo, you offering?
I'll offer with the following change on line 14, change 15 to 25. And I'll offer next for a second.
From 15 to 25. With that, you offer?
Yes.
I'll ask for a second. Second by Mr. Juneau. Mr. Russo?
Yes, what this does, it changes the policy for issuing contracts without council approval from $50,000 to $25,000. And if there's explanation needed, I'll be glad to give it. If not,
Okay.
answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I do.
Ms. Black?
Any specific purpose? I know we created this policy in 2015. Any issue why we want to go down from 50 to 25?
I'll be glad to address that if you'd like. In the past several months, we've had issues that we have not been aware of. For instance, the Vickerman contract. We had agreed to hire Trident without Vickerman as a sub, and the Port Administration decided to hire Vickerman, and they spent the $50,000 and never did inform us until they ran out of money 6 months later. I just recently learned that we've also hired another individual firm, Gary Lagrange, for $40,000 without any notice to any of the members that are here today. So I think in an effort to be transparent that we have to do this, and that way we'll be plugged in when new contracts are signed.
What's the policy on the administration side? Do we have a number for contracts on them?
I don't know what administration you're referring to. You're talking about Mr. Cormier's policy?
Yeah.
You'll have to deal with Mr. Cormier on that. I don't know that we have a specific policy, but if you want to read the specific policy that's in place, it's all contracts. And I didn't bring the ordinance with me, but there is a proposal, an ordinance on the books that says that the administration goes out and gets 3 proposals and gives the council all 3 proposals for consideration. That is not happening. So they're not following the policy. That's the real answer.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
This also, let me go this, if you want to go further with this discussion. If you read the current 18-93, the Port Administration shall solicit proposals from at least 3 firms, companies, or individuals providing the desired services prior to the employment or submission to this council for authority to enter into a contract for said services. That part of the policy is also not being provided.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I think my point is just, I want to make sure that we're on the same page with the administration, PPG side, as well as the port. I'm just trying to get clarification on what's PPG's policy from the president.
Well, Mr. Blackman,
I'm not arguing with you, Benny. I'm just saying, I don't have an issue with going to 25. I'm just trying to get some sense of the policy across the board. That's all.
Mr. Lepine?
Ms.
Just
Alban?
to add on to what Mr. Russo is saying here, my question would be to Mr. Sanders and his staff, why are we not following the policies? Is there any particular reason why we're not adhering to the policies?
These are hires for below $50,000. The reason an executive director is given this type of power is to act very nimbly and sharply when the situation arises. Also, all of these type of contracts, they're outsourced because the port, in this case, does not have that organic capability on its staff. So you have to go out and get that capability, such as in the case of Mr. Lagrange. We're at the point now where if we could and had the money, we would hire a commercial officer. Our network throughout the Mississippi River Valley is surging to the point that now we are contacting BCOs, beneficial cargo owners, inland ports, and are now starting to have meetings with these folks to come in and talk about the services that we provide, connecting these inner ports with the American Patriot Holdings vessel. So it's very important that if I have one shot at this, that I bring everything to bear to get these BCOs to attend this meeting. Mr. Lagrange has a very long CV as far as being an executive director at a port. He has personal relationships with many of these BCOs that we are attempting to contract, and it is in the port's best interest to have them at the meeting, that we can show them the vertical integration model that we're building, and it will definitely save them money on shipping their goods. So it is a quick reaction to bring someone of his stature and his abilities on to do that. Our first BCO meeting was actually yesterday up in Washington, D.C. The second one is up in St. Louis on the 30th. The next one is up in Kansas City on the 10th, followed by one on the 30th. These are very important meetings. It is unveiling to, as I say, these what they call big box owners, container box owners, that are looking to shave their transportation costs. And we are the only port in the United States that has the American Patriot Holdings advantage. So if I can get them to the meeting and show them, then we're going to get cargo commitments. It is cargo commitments that I need to be able to start the port. I could build the port right now, but if I don't have cargo, I can't pay for it. So we're dealing with a very large carrier, and we're also dealing with these beneficial cargo owners. In the case of Vickerman, we had a very large carrier come to us, all right? When you get a carrier commitment, what we're asking him to do is pay, it could be anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion of their money investing in our port. Before they do this, they want to know exactly what their rate of return is, and they want to know how much port they're going to build. So it was reverse engineering that we used Vickerman, because he's the one that designed the port in the first place. The reverse engineering is, what if I promise you 80,000 lifts? What if I promise you 100,000 lifts? What if I promise you 120,000 lifts? What does the reflective port look like based on those target guarantees? So we were in a position where we had to move fast, quickly, and utilize the person that actually designed the port. But not just these two contracts. Any contract that we do a professional services contract, if I had the capability on my staff, I would use the staff. But I don't have that capability. I'm a small port starting up, and with the exception of my office personnel, which consists of the deputy, Donald Durr, and our staff right here at the table, and 4 or 5 other clerical folks, that is our staff. I don't have that expertise, and I need it to accomplish the mission at hand. Plain and simple.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Yeah. You want to go?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, there's a couple points that I want to just speak about in reference to what you just said. You talk about the BCOs, you know, those are one of the items when we redid your contract as a tasking or a deliverable.
Yes, sir.
I mean, so for me, to go out and hire somebody to attract BCOs or have those conversations, I think that's one of the things that was in your contract. But I do give a little leverage. I understand Mr. LaGrange's background. I'm not sure if, you know, $25,000 isn't sufficient to obtain his services, and then come to the council and say, hey, this is the reason why. I think one of the issues that we have is that I don't know who on the council really knew that Mr. LaGrange was getting hired. I think it's a good hire. I think it's something that we needed to do, but I think a lot of us didn't know about it. So, and I would have no problem having an expenditure. I think 25,000 is safe. I didn't realize Mr. Russo was going to amend it to 25. You know, we talked about it before that you know, he had talked about 25. That's why I asked what the president's policy is. You know, I just, I think we and I'm pro-port. I think we lose a little bit of, not leverage, but we've been losing a lot of things in the mix. And I think that, you know, I'm comfortable going down to 25. I know you guys, you know, want to stay at 50, but I don't know, guys. It's just, I don't think anybody likes hearing that we have contracts in place that we didn't know about. That's all. And I'm going to say the same thing to the president, too. I mean, look, I hold them accountable up here on contracts and expenditures. I got to hold you guys accountable, too. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, because it was within the policy. It's just the notification of it is what kind of is my sticking point.
I understand, excuse me, but I go back to, this gives me the ability to move quickly and nimbly. Let me give you another example where I didn't have this power. This is when Bob Pender, when Venture Global contacted us about the drainage. It took me almost 9 months to start working on that, because I go through meeting after meeting after meeting, bids, to do a drainage where I could just reach out and get it done pronto. But again, that's the board's decision on how much discretionary funds that you give us to be nimble.
What was the Fort Myer contract? I wasn't here for A. What was the total on that one?
We would defer that.
What is the total on the Fort Myer contract?
Go ahead.
It was, with the lease, it was $200 a month to the, $200 for the year to the port, in exchange for.
All right, so why did that one come before the council?
Because it was a lease issue at the time. That's why it came. It was a lease issue at the time, and so that's why we came to you. It was an issue that we thought was pertinent to the council, because it wasn't a contract, it was a lease, so that should be brought before the council. We deferred it because we see that there may be a way we can change that agreement, but that wasn't a contract, that was more of a lease agreement, and that may need to be changed. That's why we deferred it.
Also, if I may, on the Fort Myer, the previous landowner had an agreement with him, and when we bought the land, he came to us and told us what he was doing. He was maintaining the land and grazing his cattle at the same time. So we inherited their agreement, but we needed to codify it, and hence the lease.
What's the chairman's position on this? The chairman.
The chairman's position was he wanted us to codify what the agreement was.
I'm talking about on the 50.
On 50?
Yeah.
He is for the 50.
Is there any possible way we can defer to the chairman comes back and we can have a discussion, another discussion. I don't have a problem with 25. I would just like to have the chairman in place, or if he's not going to show up, we'll,
Well, the problem that I'm having, first of all, let me ask this. How much was the drainage contractor with Fort Myers that we've already paid him for? Yeah, the one that you were
The
hamstrung
five-year
with.
capital improvement,
No, not the capital improvement. How much
well,
was
we
the
did a
drainage
five-year
contract?
capital improvement budget for the drainage.
How much did we pay Mr. Fort Myers under the drainage contract? Was it 20,000?
In the first phase, no, I think it was around 40 to 50. It wasn't over 50, but there was 2 phases to it, because he did a phase, and then they seen how it worked, they evaluated it, and it was within the next year, because we had a rollover from that 5-year capital improvement budget.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all of the discussion. The real issue here is transparency. The Vickerman contract was in place 7 months before we knew it was there. The next issue, that I have is, when will we be informed of when Mr. Lagrange would come on? We're not. We found it, and in an audit process is when I first heard about it. And I think that this board owes it to the public to be as transparent as possible. And I think that you as the staff owe it to this board to be as transparent as possible. And you can put out emails very easily to say that you're hiring Mr. So-and-so, whatever. I mean, that's what, this is all about. Transparency, knowing what's going on, because we see you once a month. At least I don't see it. And going back to the chairman has not been available. I tried to meet with the chairman for a month now. He's not running for re-election. He's not here. So the people's business does not stop because of one individual. Now, if that's what it takes to get this done, I'll defer it, but...
can I ask, well, I appreciate that, but let me just caveat it with this, is I'm not asking just to defer it. What I'm also would suggest that is let's use this opportunity, the same opportunity we gave the president when we asked him to move to 100 and we deferred the vote on going back to court. Would you be okay with, you guys have 1 month until we meet again here, and provide every contract to the council in its entirety. Evidently, it's not flowing through the way it was designed to flow, so have all of those contracts provided to the council within that month period. Also, if there's any contracts that are going to be signed between now and then, advise the council prior to the signing of the contract, because if a council member may see an issue with it, they can say, hey, look, we have an issue with this contract for one reason or another, even without going to a vote. And then if that's done properly within a month, then maybe we can say, hey, look, this has fixed itself, or if you haven't done it, I think everybody would vote with Mr. Roussel.
Well, all I can say to that, Mr. Black, I just assume let it go up and down today. If it goes down, fine, because if we're going to delay, obviously they're going to comply. I mean, they have no reason not to comply. The problem is that they haven't complied.
What, if I
Go
may
right
address that, Ms. Audrey, Ms. Salvant, made a comment regarding why we weren't following policy. If I'm not misunderstanding it, the resolution stated that we must provide 3 quotes for professional services contracts over $50,000. The only professional service contract that we had since that resolution was passed was on the B3 project, and bids were submitted. We advertised, we submitted it to the council, and the council did vote. So the board was not in violation of that ordinance. I would suggest that if we're having an issue with communication, then we address that issue. We address how it is that the staff communicates to the board, or how the board would like to receive that information, whether it's on a monthly basis, whether all contracts are discussed at the board.
Ms. Riley, I hate to interrupt you, but I agree with you 100%, and I take the position that I may have, ill spoke in regards to adhering to the policies, but the bottom line here, and I think what we all saying here, is transparency.
Exactly,
You may
and
not
that's
be
why-
obligated by policy to disclose 50 and under, but if we had this communication with the staff and the board, within a month's time, you would think that it would make its way to the pertinent people.
Right. And
And
Ms. Audrey-
again, and I can speak as a commissioner of the port, that a lot of things may get to the chairman and never reaches us. So there is a miscommunication, and it's not a transparency there. So this is why we're having a problem, and I think this is why Mr. Roussel is being forced to take the action. I'm not a big proponent of this move, to go down to $25,000. We're trying to develop a port here. But if that's what it's going to take to make the communication between you guys and the commissioners more cohesive, well, that's what it's going to take.
That's what I'm suggesting. We amend the policy regarding the communication, because at the end of the day, if you lower the limit to 15, that means you won't get communication on contracts up to 15. That doesn't resolve the issue of communication. It only resolves the issue of the dollar limit you're being communicated on.
But the point that Ms. Audrey's trying to make is not whether or not the policy says 50. It's just anytime you do a contract, notify the chairman or notify the port.
That's exactly what I'm suggesting. We amend
port
the
committee-
policy regarding the
It doesn't have to be
communication
amended.
process.
It doesn't have to be
One at a
amended.
time.
It doesn't have to be amended. Because the policy, whether it says notify them or not, you report to us.
Right, it's understood.
So just basically, send the information to either the chairman or all the members of the committee, and then let it, all members of the council, let it disseminate like that. I don't think you have a problem with that. I don't want to go down from 50 to 25 or 15, whatever. That's why I would ask Mr. Russo just to defer it. Let's work this out to give you the leverage of 50,000, but maybe during that time, you can develop an internal policy between whoever, if that's what you want, if you want a written policy. It doesn't have to come before the council. But like Ms. Solvent's saying, she's not, obviously, we want to develop a port, but we got to have, as Mr. Russo said,
And
better transparency.
Right, and we're also about to go through an internal audit on the contracts and the policies, so I think it would be a good idea to defer it, and once we complete that audit, we can make all the necessary changes.
Will that be done within the next 30 days?
We haven't even had our entrance
Mr.
meeting
Duke?
yet. Yes. So I was out on leave for about a week and a half, and I just got back today. So I'm going to get with Mr. Duke today, and we should have a timeline. But usually, once he issues a draft report, he does some field work, he issues a draft report, we have about 20 days to respond to get a final report.
All right, so before the response is done, Mr. Russo, is that enough time? Maybe, you're the audit committee chairman, so you'll have firsthand knowledge, and then do one complete ordinance to change whatever policy and have this included in it if needed?
Mr. Black, I don't have a problem with all of that. The problem I have is the same problem I've been having for quite some time, and that's the transparency and the resistance that we get when we try to find information. And you well know how many times I come to your office.
I do well know. I do well know, but I also well know that I'm trying to negotiate this thing without just like ordinances on top of ordinance on top of ordinance.
Well, we did negotiate it from 15 to 25, but if you don't want to go for that, and you want to wait for the auditor to make his recommendations, and you commit that you're going to make the commitment to adopt those recommendations, I will defer this. Now, do you commit to responding to the internal auditor and the recommendations that he makes?
As long as his recommendations are reasonable.
Well, there we go. I think reason was 25. It's all subjective here. My issue is, I've got some deeper issues that I'm not vetting in public right now because I'm going to defer those issues to a later time. But there are issues, many issues here that are below the surface here. And we can talk about how we're building a port and how we're doing all of these wonderful things, and we support you. You come around once a month and give a report, and that's it. And the report is very generic and basically the same. We haven't seen any real carriers come forward. We've been at it for many years. We've spent millions of dollars into it. We're still waiting. Now, this is an effort to make you more transparent. And I don't know what it takes to get your attention, because when we're communicating, there's a roadblock. Now, that's the real issue for me. And I'll be glad to defer this, Mr. Black. However, you know, the issues are going to be vetted eventually in public.
No, look, and I don't have a problem with that. And you know, you and I have had many discussions since I mean, we both served as the chairman of this commission at some point in time over the last 3 years. So we understand the inner workings of the port. So I appreciate that you would defer it, and you do have my word that if they don't comply with the recommendations of the council or the policies that are written, then we're going to have issues. But I've told y'all this before, that we do need better transparency. And, you know, whether that's through the chairman or something else that's written in the policy, we need to do it. I mean, like you said, we've been waiting a long time for some substantive progress, and I know that it's coming, but, you know, we report to 23,000 people here, and they want to see something too. So that's all I have. You have my word, Benny.
All right, so let me just close by saying this. I'm going to defer this item. However, I'm not favorable to you funneling the information through 1 or 4 people. Because if you're not on a committee, you don't get the information. And then there's a finger-pointing game going on. Well, I sent it to the chairman, he didn't send it to the committee didn't send it to the council. That's not transparency. So it's just as easy to send an email to 9 people as it is to send it to 1 person. There's no reason why you cannot send it to 10 people, including the council secretary. If you think it's too hard to send to 9, send it to 1, and she will forward it. But to leave out 5 people in the process, and me have to come back here and go through this exercise of futility of trying to get you to be transparent is over for me.
Can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Juneau?
Yes, sir. I'm going back to when we hired Mr. Matthews. Mr. Sanders, you recommended Mr. Matthews, and he was a great addition to your staff. But I thought when Mr. Matthews came in, he would be able to handle some of this, of the contracts that you're putting out. That's what I thought while you brought in Mr. Matthews, because he had experience from the New Orleans port. And can you two together handle some of these contracts that you have to bid out?
Can we do the work of the contract, or can we actually bid the contract out?
No. Can you do the work of the contract without bidding them out?
Mr. Juneau, we absorb everything that we can based on time or expertise. So we do a lot of stuff internally. Mr. Matthews does a lot of work prior to going to the attorney. He does a lot of internal, just as John Benison did. Okay? I am, as far as like Gary LaGrange as a good example, I am doing a lot of that work, going out as a commercial officer, setting up these BCO meetings and contacting the BCOs. All right? But when we have someone that has a 40-year relationship with these people, say a family in Memphis that controls 60% of the cotton production, I'm going to tap into someone who can tap into that, because we're talking about exponentially garnering cargo. But I do understand what you're saying, and yes, we do take on as much of it as time and talent allows.
Thank you.
In particular, Commissioner Juneau, in particular with that contract, as I reviewed and went over that contract with Mr. LaGrange, it's note to be very clear that it does have a cap on it, but I would be incredibly surprised if we ever get to that cap. It also minimizes any monthly invoices, and it also clarifies exactly what he's doing. And so I'm monitoring that one very clearly. And we can provide that information however we want to communicate when we decide, whether that's on a monthly basis or quarterly or what have you, communicating that communication. But he has a very specific job duty that he's performing for us based on his 40 years of experience He's probably the only port director that you can find on this planet that was the port director of 3 of the top 15 ports in the country. So he has a Rolodex that no one has, and that's why specifically we asked him to do a very specific task with these BCOs and his specific relationships, nothing more.
So you're saying, y'all do as much as you can, and when you get to the, where you can't do no more, you have to hire someone to help?
This was a very specific task.
Okay, thank you.
Going back to Mr. Roussel and your communication.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
John and Artie's in the room.
They're in the room.
Toby discussed them now.
Go ahead.
We'd like to ask the members to return to the table so we can maintain a quorum, please.
Mr. Bartholomew, Ms. Salvant, would you return to the table? We need 5. One of you. Thank you. No, we just need, for discussion, we need 5 at the table. Okay, who was up? I'm sorry.
All right,
Who was speaking?
All right.
Mr. Juno was...
Finish? Yeah? Okay.
What are we doing?
At this time, I will defer item C, and I'm going to also defer item B at this time for further discussion at a later date,
All right, item C is deferred,
and 7B.
and 7B. Ms. Barber, we'll move to 7,
8,
which we have nothing left on 7 now.
approval of the June 28th, 2000.
We missed somebody.
Mis- Mr.
to get in on before you moved in on Mr. Roussel and this part about the transparency as it relates to the port, because I'm confronted with people every day, especially parish employees, are struggling to figure out when this port going to start showing some serious revenues, and what is the relationship between the port and the parish and who controls who. I happened to be at a civil service meeting not too long ago, and the gentleman right here was at the port at the civil service meeting trying to almost sing in terms of whether the port could be used by the civil service for hiring people, and that caught me off guard. And so they're trying to throw me out, well, you know, who do the port report to, and why do the port need to be going to the civil service about hiring and firing, getting people employed? That kind of threw me off. So again, I'm really wondering, you know, what's the relationship is about, and what kind of discrepancy they have, and whether it's a little too much. So, you know, that was one of my concerns. So in the transparency that y'all talking about, hope at some point there will be something revealed to the public ensuring the history of this port. We know it has grown tremendously in staff and salary, but as it relates to bringing millions of dollars into the parish so it can help employ and release some of the problem that the parish have with paying employees, you know, we still don't know where that is. And so I hope at some point, you know, there'll be some kind of transparency to let us understand, and especially the relationship with civil service and the port as it relates to the parish government. So we're very confused.
Thank you. With those items are deferred from now, and under 7, we have no 7A or B.
Number 8, approval of the June 28th, 2018 minutes.
I'll offer for the approval of the minutes. Ask for a second. Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions on the minutes? Machine is open. And the minutes are approved 6-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Offered by Mr. Bartholomew, second by Mr. Juno. Machine's open on adjournment. And it passes 6-0. We adjourned at 2:05. We will take a 5-minute break to set up for the council meeting.
I'd like to call the July 26th meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council to order at 2:22 p.m. Machines open for roll call. Hit the button. Let the record reflect that 7 council members are present Councilmember Edgecombe and Burt are absent. At this time, we'll move to 1B, proclamations.
A proclamation proclaiming July 26, 2018 as Plaquemines Parish Warriors' Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I offer.
I'll second, well, a unanimous second? Unanimous second.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
A proclamation proclaiming July 26, 2018 as Plaquemines Parish Warriors' Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas the Plaquemines Parish Warriors 10U softball team is currently made up of 10-year-old girls, Kamaya Vaughn, Sinai Salvant, Kaylee Ronquill, Angelina Ives, Diavanti Battle, Shayla Santos, Sarah Gagnon, Juliana Metzler, Janaya Manuel, Presley Jones, Ty Nichols, and Micah Williams. And whereas this group of girls went undefeated, winning 2 pool games and 3 bracket games to secure the USSSA State Softball Championship held on Sunday, June 24th in Slidell. And whereas the team's overall record ranked them first in the state and 9th in the nation. And whereas with all the hard work, dedication, and perseverance this team showed, when everyone works together, great things happen. Without amazing parents and the guidance and support from their coaches, Lori Gagnon, Nicole Jones, and Justin Salvant, this team of girls could not have achieved these great accomplishments. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Nicole Williams, and by concurrence of the parish president, Amos Cormier, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares July 26, 2018 as Plaquemines Parish Warriors' Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I would like to ask the coaches, Ms. Sarah Gagnon, Lori Gagnon, Nicole Jones, and my son, Justin Salvant, to come up front and center. And while they're doing that, then I would like the team to proceed immediately after them.
I want to say congratulations.
And form a line across the front here. I just wanted to let everybody know, this is a worthy, this team is worthwhile to be honored here. This is Plaquemines' best. Okay, I'm going to offer this proclamation. I need to get the council, the chairman to go and acknowledge the vote.
Ms. Salvant offers this proclamation with a unanimous second from the council. The machine is open for voting. Let the record reflect that 7 council members, all 7 members present, voted to accept this proclamation. Ms. Salvant, would you like to continue?
As I was mentioning earlier, this is an awesome team. With the parents and the coaches that you see before you, they did an awesome job. I was fortunate enough to go to a couple of their teams, and I can tell you, the camaraderie and the teamwork among these young girls is amazing. And I would like you to give them another round of applause. And I have a proclamation that I'm going to present to Ms. Gagnon,
Lori, can you turn them
and we
around,
have
please, to
some,
us?
yes.
We're going to take a picture with him in a minute.
And we have some certificates that we're going to hand out to each one of you. We're going to pass that to Ms. Gagnon, and you can call the name out.
Second baseman and leadoff batter, Kamaya Vaughn. First string pitcher and really the rock behind this entire team, and amazing Sinai Salvant. Left fielder, 8-hole hitter, Kaylee Ronquill. Catcher, center field, right field, wherever I tell her to play, she plays like all heart, Diavanti Battle. My daughter, who on this team, I have 2 teams. She plays right field on this team, but she plays third base and pitches on my younger team. So Sarah Gagnon. Catcher,
center field, first base, whatever I ask her to do, a leader, a USSSA All-Star. Sinai is also a USSSA All-Star. Juliana Metzler. Kamaya Vaughn is also a USSSA All-Star. Pitcher, second string pitcher, the youngest girl on the team, throws the most accuracy with the most accuracy, Preston Jones. The fastest girl on the team, she slaps, she bunts, she hits, she catches balls in the outfield, Ty Nichols. And my utility player, Michael Williams, she does everything. And one for me, Lori Gagnon. Awesome. My assistant coach, I couldn't do it without you, Nicole. I'm going to try not to get emotional because, you know, we've been together for a long time. So, Nicole Jones, thank you so much. And if Justin and I don't talk about softball at least once a day, we have not, you know, we have to talk every day about softball. So, Justin Salvan, thank you so much. I'd like to thank the council for recognizing the hard work and excellence these girls brought Thank you.
You forgot Mackenzie?
No, because if you notice, there's two grandkids I have a part of the team. Mackenzie is actually not a team member, but nothing her big sister does that she don't want to be a part of. So, and everybody realized that. So, Mackenzie, we're going to make one for you, okay, sweetheart?
Listen,
Okay.
don't sleep on Mackenzie. She might be 7, but
That's right.
small and mighty.
Okay, we're going to need you guys to turn around and face the audience.
Wait,
and
can we
then
say
we're
one
gonna-
thing?
Hey, we're gonna make some comments in a second. Let Ms. Salvan first.
But still, we want the team to be,
You ready to let people talk? You want to open?
yes.
Okay, I just would like to say that I had the privilege of watching these amazing girls play as well. I know Nicole, I watched her play ball. She's an awesome leader. She knows the game. And Ms. Gagnon, you know, they're doing wonderful things as well as Justin with these girls. These girls have a bright future. They are stellar athletes. There's teamwork, there's camaraderie, the parents are behind them. So I just want to let y'all know I'm very, very proud of y'all in the program that y'all have put together for these young girls. Best of luck in the future. Mr. Lapine?
Ladies, congratulations on your hard work and your dedication. Just one question to ask you guys. Last council meeting, we gave a proclamation to the 10-year-old boys who were world champions. You think if we set up a game, y'all could beat them? All right.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, this is great to see. It all comes to fruition, you know, how life's a big circle, because I'm sitting there, and I know some of these kids' parents, and I know I won a couple state championships with Ms. Ronkeel's father. I see her mother, grandmother in the back. Does she yell at you as much as she did to me and your dad? I don't know. But no, this is great to see, so congratulations, girls. Job well done.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I want to congratulate the team for an outstanding effort. Being champions, there's no excuse not to win it because y'all have all the talent in the world. You have a good coach, and I just want to say keep up the good work, and you represented Plaquemine very well. Now, taking a point of reference, Ms. Gagnon and also her assistant principal here will be taking care of the South Plaquemine High School. So you see, when you have educators that's in leadership role doing this, that means they are concerned
Mr.
about
John,
Phoenix
you
High
stole
School.
my thunder.
Well,
That was.
I want to just let you know, hold up here, Ms. Gagnon came from Phoenix, Ms. Williams came from Phoenix. So I'm just letting you know, we trained them to get to where they are. Then my son left, so he left. I was disappointed in him leaving, but he had to step up, and he's doing real well out there in East Abbeville. He's the director of all the principals, high schools in the parish, and also of athletics. Plus, he got a $15,000 or $20,000 raise. So I need me some money.
Mr. Juneau?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate y'all. Y'all some beautiful little girls, and I know I'm going to see you on television one day. Thank you.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, I'd like to also congratulate you all and thank you for coming today, and it's an honor for us to be here to be in your presence and give you these certificates. So, as you've heard from everyone here today, you've got a great future ahead of you, and thank you for being there representing Plaquemines Parish. all of you.
Mr. Cormier?
Yes, thank you. Nothing but compliments to the work you've all performed together. One of the greatest things about team sports is that it teaches you to work together, because when you make a mistake or your friend makes a mistake, you learn to cheer each other up and rally and keep fighting and to win. And so you obviously have done that together and worked together as a team, and great thanks to the coaches. And again, it's wonderful to see, I know your duties are going to increase threefold, but thank you for working with the team as well, Coach Gagnon. Thank y'all. Congratulations.
And before I turn it over to Ms. Salvan, I just want to let Sanaya know you must get it from your grandma, huh?
Well, I didn't want to say that, but people in the audience know that I was an MVP player all through my high school year, so it was not like they wasn't deserving. And then, there you go. And then there's my handsome son right there, and he was also an all-star at Belle Chase High School, so it went through the family. But anyway, again, for those who didn't hear John, I want to congratulate Miss Gagnon and my niece in the back, who's going to become the assistant principal to Ms. Gagnon at South Platte. Go South Platte. Again, I'm very proud of you guys.
Wait, we're going to take a picture. Y'all hold tight, we're going to come out and take a picture with y'all.
Right there, Mr. Fowler, your BSC. Come on. Right there you go.
They'll be back next year.
Oh, my goodness.
Not unusual.
She's going to do it better. She's already.
You're right.
At this time, we'll move to item 1C on the agenda.
Status report by the parish president.
Mr. Cormier?
Get that gap.
Thank you, Chairwoman Williams. For the record, this is Plaquemines Parish President Amos Cormier's status report, July 16th through the 26th of 2018. On Monday, July 16th, I had a meeting with telecommunications regarding logistics. As many of you know, administration is moving to Building 100. That afternoon, went to Washington, D.C. with a delegation, members of the Louisiana Oyster Task Force, other interest, and met with Mr. Redican of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and relayed more of our concerns regarding CPRA and its actions. Unfortunately, CPRA persists in continuing to act in violation of this council's ordinance and in this council's resolutions. There were, our permit crew went out. They were bulldozing more land just north of Ironton, and they were requested to show permits, which they said they had none, and that the state troopers were providing the muscle for them to do what they wanted. It's disconcerting, to say the least, that this is happening this way, and it's also troubling. What we've found out more, and we are sending a lengthy, in the process of sending a lengthy 7-page letter to the district office of the Army Corps of Engineers regarding that. But it was even more troubling when we were informed that CPRA had spent over $30 million on the Mississippi River Hydrodynamic Delta Management Study. After spending $30 million, it was quite readily apparent that CPRA's model, which they were using a DELFT model, and the Corps' model, which they were using, I think, ADH, were completely in absolute non-agreement. The Corps model had predicted, after 50 years, that it would be a net land loss. The diversion would cause a loss of minus 1,900 some odd acres. The CPRA model, on the other hand, predicted a rosy gain of over 38,000 acres. When some of the PhDs and doctors on the Corps side tried to find out why the two models were rendering such contradictory results, it was discovered that the assumptions regarding the vegetative analysis and the assumptions regarding inundation and regarding hypoxia were, I would say, use the term irreconcilable. And CPRA at that time then just pulled out of the study. This is indicative. Now, some people could say that at that point, more questions should have been asked as to which assumptions were backed by verifiable data and scientific, fact-based studies. And this is something this administration has been saying for a while, that the Corps, in this circumstance, is the one that has the fact-based studies. Scientists would say empirically backed studies. And that the CPRA model is working in a vacuum. And that's not the basis of good science. Anybody can build a theoretical model, but if the theoretical model is not based on facts, it simply isn't good science. This, we're going to try to do a little, part of this is to inform our public of what's going on. We're going to try to do a better job of that. CPRA has spent millions in marketing and weekly informational outputs and whatnot, and we just don't have, as a local parish government, we just don't have the resources to keep up with the expenditures of CPRA. Certainly, this parish hasn't spent $30 million on a study and then backed out of it when we didn't like the results. But needless to say, I think the overall meeting went quite well. We met with other members of Louisiana's congressional delegation, and there will be letters that follow. I want to certainly thank the two doctors in our Louisiana congressional delegation got it. Congressman Abraham from Louisiana, he's a medical doctor, and he's used to analyzing empirical data, fact-based data, and then extrapolating, conclusions from fact-based data as opposed to models. And also Senator Cassidy, who's a medical doctor by training, and he understood it. You can't build a model in a vacuum. It has to be based on facts. If it's not based on facts, it simply isn't dependable. We will, a letter is being sent on that matter as well, requesting further information. And also, and this is going to be incorporated into the EIS process, we specifically requested Mr. Jeffrey Varisco, who's the Corps project manager for this whole EIS process, that he include that in the record. And so that our concerns, we believe our concerns will be heard by the Corps. There are numerous other aspects, but for sake of time, I won't go through that. We will, as we have a specific tab on our website. If you go to plaquemines.parish.com, under News and Events, there's a sub-tab, Coastal News. We're putting up the scientific studies there, and as we get more information, we will put that and make that available to the public so that everyone can see. Our goal is transparency and getting our questions answered, and making sure that the concerns and interests and the economy and the people of Plaquemines Parish are protected in this whole process. I want to also thank Mr. Ken Savastano, our own retired NOAA scientist who worked for the federal government for many years. He attended the CPRA meeting on July 18th in my stead while we were meeting with the delegation. And I did omit to say that I think Congressman Abraham was so impressed that he's going to send a letter seeking answers as well. One of our attorneys, Mr. Shane Landry, attended the education workshop on Gulf spill restoration. That was held on July 18th. We're doing the best we can to gather as much information as possible so that we make sure that we represent this parish in the very best possible manner. And there's a tremendous amount of study and time being spent to make sure that we're analyzing everything correctly and that we have the best available science at our disposal, and that we make good decisions for the long-term future of Plaquemines. On July 20th, we had I was invited to attend the U.S. Coast Guard change of the command. One of the communications towers that used to be managed from the Belchas area on the base has now been relocated to the Michoud Assembly out in New Orleans East. But they still operate within Plaquemines. And so thus we always are attempting to reach out and build those bridges so that in the event of a hurricane or storm, we all have a personal relationship and will facilitate action on behalf of Plaquemines. On Saturday, July 21st, I believe, and you have to forgive me, and this is very good news, Barron's, the investment journal article paper, they had a great article about, in which the author projected oil possibly going up to close to $100 a barrel this year. And those projections were based upon, one, a cut in the oversupply that Saudi Arabia was engaging in before, and two, a possible trade embargo on Iran, which would cut the supply overall, and demand was expected to remain stable, if not slightly increase. So that is good news for Plaquemines, because we all know, besides commercial seafood, we're always have been very heavily dependent on the oil and gas industry as a pillar of our economy. On Wednesday, July 25th, we had, and I want to thank Mr. Vince Frelish and Ms. Tammy Bradley for putting a lot of work into organizing this. Also, Ms. Darlene Turner and Ms. Anklod for helping with the children's rodeo, fishing rodeo. It was a great success. We did have, it was a windy day, and anyone who's done a lot of fishing knows that on a windy day, when the wind's in your face, and you have an open-faced rod and reel, one can wind up with a few rat's nests in the line. So we had had a fish that was caught. Someone caught an alligator, and we had many rod and reel that had to be, the line had to be straightened out. But overall, it was a wonderful success. We had a good day. The children had a lot of fun, and learned a little bit about using an open-faced rod and reel. And those open-faced rod and reels were turned into, were donated and turned into Councilman Bartholomew, and they will be available for the children to continue using it and mastering the skill of fishing. Today, this morning rather, we had the, I was honored to be invited to the change of command at the Belle Chase Naval Air Station. Captain Sakata has done a great job with that base, and we had a very good working relationship with him. I can't thank him enough. I think the 2017 air show was a tremendous, tremendous success. It put Plaquemines in a good light, it was entertaining, and it was inspiring. The new captain of the base will be Captain Scorpino, and met briefly with him and look forward to developing a similar working relationship with Captain Scorpino, as good as the one we had with Captain Sakata. And we wish Captain Sakata the best of success. He's moving back to D.C. and will be working in the Pentagon. Currently, on the West Point Lahash Ferry, landing barge dolphin repair, our contractor is mobilizing equipment now. He will start as soon as mobilization is finished, and we're hoping, please God, to have that finished by the end of August. I know everyone is, especially on the East Bank, has been very patient, and I thank you for your patience, but we hope to have that back up and running soon, the ability to move vehicles, as well as currently we're just using moving pedestrians. Belle Chase transfer station improvements. The preliminary site plans are complete. The architecture meeting is this week. Well, actually occurred the other day. And we have a tentative bid date that our engineering department is setting up for, I believe, early October. A Wood Park water line relocation. The new 12-inch water line is in service, and it's a projected completion in the next 2 months. Before any of you leave, I would recommend to take a little ride down the road and personally see the great progress that is being made at the Plaquemines Parish Courthouse. It is, they're moving at a very good clip, and we're very proud, and you can easily go and see it. We recommend you all take a ride down to see all the progress. On West Bank Sewer Line Project, the Beverly Construction Company won the bid, and we're doing all the paperwork now with sales tax exemptions and other matters to keep that moving forward. On Good News Drainage, FEMA approved the cost overrun there. As I stated before, we're trying to get where the outflow pipe is located, instead of using rocks, we want to get that cemented, so that will cut down the cost of future operation and maintenance of that area. We won't have to cut it and other matters. On Main Street drainage, United States Army Corps of Engineers approved the permits. The environmental assessment on that project is nearing completion, and requested Phase 2 funding from FEMA, which covers the construction. And finally, another matter we discussed in Washington, D.C. was with the Corps was our permit to close Mardi Gras Pass. The comment period closed in March, and so we requested that they finish up on that as well, and they said they were going to look into that. That is, anyone who thinks, and it really is, it's disturbing that people can make statements without having any basis to back them up, but there have been statements that the diversion, freshwater diversion, will be a benefit to the seafood industry. Anyone who thinks that to be true, all you have to do is come take a ride to Point LaHashe Marina and ask a few people. Ask Mr. Don Beschel if there's any truth in that statement whatsoever. It's a foolish statement, because we have the evidence here, and that was another thing that we raised in D.C., was that if CPRA were so intent on doing things properly, and we've heard talks about this was part of the master plan for a decade, and well, then why have not they been collecting baseline data here on the East Bank? Because they've collected none. So if their intent was really to do right by Plaquemines Parish, they would have been collecting this data so that you'd have an accurate assessment of what our seafood output is, so that when they put the project in, we could have something, a standard, a measure to compare it with. None of that has been done. So with that, I know that everyone is very busy. We all live in our nation right now. It's very hectic times. These are tight economic times. But simply would ask that if you do have time, or if this issue does interest you, please go to our website and just start taking a look at some of the data. And I think you'll be surprised at there is information, good information out there, and we're looking for it. And if you find any information, anyone in council, please, let's keep this debate going to make sure that the interests of Plaquemines are protected. With that, Chairwoman Williams, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cormier. Any questions or comments from the table? Mr. Badalny?
Yes. I've been having some concerns, which several months have requested that we do as a slope one, cut the grass by the pond, slope by the pond, because of the number of alligators in that pond. And they come to the park parking lot. There's several of them get on the park, some of them claim underneath the building. And also because of the snakes, the Congo snakes, them big rascals. It's a problem that if we don't cut that grass, they're going to stay there. And because the kids are going to start fishing, and without any kind of supervision and a cluster of noise, there won't be no one alligator can attack somebody. And we need to cut that grass like we used to all around the pond, all the way back, to make sure it's a safe haven for the, not for the animals, the alligators, but for the children who will use this park, especially the pond area. I also remember, I had a request from a lady, said she has an appointment at Port Salford Hospital Monday. Is there any way possible that the boat can be extended that day? Because I told her it was Sunday, but she said, I had a doctor's appointment Monday.
Sunday was supposed to be the deadline. I don't want to say yes, because I don't...
Can you just check tomorrow then, and just give me a buzz?
I'll let you know tomorrow,
All right.
but I'm not making that promise, because
No,
those guys
no,
are mobilizing all the
understand.
equipment, and Sunday was the deadline, and we're trying to get that expedited as quick as possible. I don't want any delays on getting that ferry up and running.
Yeah.
And so...
It was just out of request, and I think
I'll
we can
look
do the
into it.
request, and if it don't happen, it don't happen, but if it happens, that'd be great. If it
Okay.
doesn't, it doesn't.
I'll look into it tomorrow. I'll get back with you tomorrow.
All right. The other thing is that the courthouse, just like Mr. Cormier stated, is on task, on time. There's no component that's holding it back from moving forward. It's constantly moving forward. And the date of completion is still for December at this point, to have it occupied by December, end of December be occupied. The other issues I'm going to deal with when it comes under District 1, the other issues of concern. But that's the thing you have mentioned. I wanted to talk about that. Okay, that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Lapine?
Mr. Cormier, Monday I took a ride over the Building 100, visited with Mr. Landry, Mr. Barbe. They were all moving in. Glad to see that we're getting some cooperation and everyone getting a brand-new office. Some of them painting, some of them refurbished. Glad we're trying to work together. Just want to make sure that everyone is moving over, you included, everyone in your cabinet. Is that true?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate the support. One other question, too. I've been listening to your trip to D.C. You met with Kennedy, you met with the delegation. Did you have a meeting with Garrett Graves?
Yes.
And could you elaborate on that?
When we attempted to meet with Congressman Graves, and we met at the Capitol, Congressman Graves set it up there. It was in a somewhat of a noisy room, so all the other meetings were at the representatives' offices, represented their own offices. So that was the initial impression. There was a lot of noise. It was hard to hear. Obviously, there's a history there between Congressman Graves and the OTF. And I'm not part of that history. I think because I was having trouble hearing, because there was in a big hallway and they had other people talking. But my simple statement when I did get a brief moment to speak with Congressman Graves was that I don't have any, I've never held a commercial seafood license. I don't have any oyster leases. None of my family members have any oyster leases. So whatever dispute he has or they have with the OTF, that my concerns are purely for the long-term good of Plaquemines Parish, and my concerns are scientific and they're economic.
Thank you.
Anybody else at the table have anything? Mr. Cormier, I just would like to have you and your staff take a ride down to Fort Jackson. There's been standing water in there for several weeks. I did speak to Mr. Beshel about it. I know Miss Maida's been trying to get a pump in there because they're not able to cut the grass. The pump is on site. I took a ride up there the other night. There's a lot of standing water in the inside where the old horseshoe is and things of that nature. So I just like y'all to, you know, take a look and try to get that water out of there so they can cut the grass, because there's water in all of the tunnels and the caves, and it's inundated with water, and it's impossible. It's a safety hazard for snakes and mosquitoes and things of that nature. Can you elaborate a little bit, Mr. Beshel?
Yes, we've been working on this since probably last Friday. And we got the pump down there. It was a 12-inch pump. It wouldn't run, so we had to get some people to come back down. After all that was done, we started pumping, I think it was Tuesday. And it was late in the day when we started. By yesterday, we had it down to where we were pumping out of that walkway going into the fort. And we're going to leave that pump there as a main pump. We're trying to get to maintenance to see how far down we can pump it to where they regularly maintenance that pump, because if we pump too far, we could collapse the fort. So we're just maintaining it right now.
And what about, is that alleviating the water from the inside, like in the horseshoe area, in the areas where, you know?
We got a small 3-inch pump
Smaller
in there.
pump? Okay,
and
that must have
pulled
been
all
brought
that
in
out
after I
of it.
went there the other night.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Beshel and Mr. Cormier for taking care of those repairs off of Epsilon Street where the road had a pothole that collapsed because of a broken culvert. They were on the job and they did it fairly quickly, and the constituents back there were happy that they didn't have to wait for it to be repaired very long. So on that note, you did a great job on that. The only other request I have is to fill those potholes on Walker Road. Thank you.
You have to wait your turn, Mr. Russo.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from the table, from the audience?
Yes, Mr. President, on your trip to D.C., when you meet the congressional delegation, did you discuss anything about the extension of the flood insurance? Y'all had any discussion on that? You know, that expires on the 30th, man, that's Monday.
Extended.
It was
That's
extended.
It was
big for the
extended, Mr. Henry.
The flood insurance,
It was extended.
that's a big issue. That expires on the 30th of July. That's
No,
Monday.
it was extended,
It was
Mr. Henry.
extended.
Okay. But did you have a discussion on it?
Yes, and I want to thank Mr. Ron Anderson, who's Senator Kennedy's senior policy advisor. That matter was covered, and yes, it has been, for the time being, taken care of. And we also spoke, and thank you, because you also reminded me, also spoke about facilitating our FEMA accounts recovery. Mr. Anderson he was very helpful last go-round, about a year ago, and since Orleans Parish, FEMA recently ruled they just gave Orleans Parish $2 billion, $2.3 billion, and I sort of, leaned into them and said that, hey, they haven't even done their work. Plaquemines did the work, already spent our money, and we've been waiting for reimbursement for 10 years, and Orleans Parish gets a payday of a couple $2 billion without any receipts or anything. So he's on our side on that one. And I'm hoping that GOSEP is going to now relax a little bit, because they've been holding some of our payments that FEMA did authorize for payment, and the fear that GOSEP had was that they were going to be on the hook for the over $2 billion that Orleans got if something went wrong. So I'm hoping that the fact that FEMA authorized, gave that money, is going to loosen up their holding of our monies.
Okay.
Any other questions or, comments from the audience? Next item, please.
Bids and advertisements,
There are none.
beer and liquor licenses.
Anyone have any? Mr. Badalamy? Mr. Black? Mr. Lapine? Mr. Juneau?
Yes, I have. OLPH located at 8968 Highway 23 is requesting their 2018-19 school year gaming license for various fundraisers for the church and school community. It's Our Lady of Perpetual Help Church. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Russo?
None.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I have one. Stalo Sports Bar and Grill, P.O. Box 1178, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, 783. That's it for me. And that's a renewal of an alcohol license, yes.
Okay. Would you like to offer?
Yes, I'll offer.
Ms. Salvant offers. Mr. Juneau? Would you like a second? Seconded by Mr. Juneau. Questions or comments from the audience? Table? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation is passed 7-0. I'd like to ask if there are no objections to taking all of the construction permits in Globo. Everyone's okay with that?
Yes, I don't have any.
Ms. Barber?
Number 1, Kinder Morgan, application number 2018-171 dated March 9, 2018. Jetting to raise part of existing 36-inch pipeline for repairs and install protective pilings, Canal number 2 south of Martin Canal, Port Sulphur. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. Number 2, Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company, LLC, application number 2018-398 dated June 1, 2018. Lower a portion of existing 30-inch GP line number 500-1 pipeline north of Lake Quattro Cabello. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 3, Eustace Engineering, application number 2018-454, dated June 20, 2018. Drill non-soil borings within the Mississippi River for proposed IGP methanol facility, Myrtle Grove area. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. Number 4, S2 Energy Operating, LLC, application number 2018-474, dated June 28, 2018. Install pile clusters, drill the Burwood prospect, and install wellhead protector. West Delta Area Block 82, Councilmember Williams. Number 5, Icon Environmental, application number 2018-484, dated July 3, 2018. Drill 30 soil borings for soil groundwater analysis to determine impacts from historical oil and gas exploration and ongoing production, Stella Oil and Gas Field, Belle Chase. Councilmember Juneau, Roussel, and Burt. Number 6, Harvest Pipeline Company, application number 2018-502, dated July 11, 2018. Excavate and repair the BOA-4 Ostraker to Elmer Junction 12-inch pipeline at dig site, 105-3 Grand Bayou area. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. Number 7, Terracon Consultants, application number 2018-427, dated June 12, 2018. Drill and sample 4 soil borings for proposed NAS-JRB Credit Union, 8632 Highway 23, Belle Chase. Councilmember Lapine. Number 8, W&T Offshore, Inc., application number 2018-518, dated July 16, 2018. Abandoned an existing 4-inch pipeline in place, Main Pass Block 68. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 9, Venice Blue Crab, LLC, application number 2018-519, dated July 16, 2018. Dredge, install bulkhead, wharf, and riprap, lot number 33, Offshore Shipyard Road, Venice. Councilmember Williams. And number 10, Chevron Oronite, application number 2018-451, dated June 20, 2018. Remove existing river water clarifier, demolish foundation, and install foundations for a new air compressor, Chevron Oronite plant, Belle Chase. Councilmember Burt.
I'll offer these construction permits. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Salvant. Any questions or comments from the audience?
I have a question.
Table, Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah. Are they in compliance, Mr. Besher? Everything is all right? No objections, any kind of? Just wanted to make sure, because sometimes we
Yes, sir.
have a complete support by everybody. All right.
Any additional questions or comments from the table of the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Construction permits passes 6-0 with an abstention from Councilmember Black. At this time, I would like to list the deferrals. I apologize, I should have did this at the beginning of the meeting. 4B will be deferred. 6B, C, D, and E will be deferred. 6N will be withdrawn. B, C, D, and E will be deferred. 6N will be withdrawn. And 7B will be deferred. Does anyone have anything in addition to those? 7B is in boy. Let's revert back to the permits. Can we take C through J in Globo, please, if there are no objections?
4C, Southern Snip Salon Barber Shop in an A-2 zoning district, 41261 Highway 23, Boothville. Councilmember Williams. D, Lou Domino new RV cover in a floodplain zoning district, 126 West Bayou Lane, Lake Hermitage. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. E, Lee McLean Venice Blue Crab LLC new camp in a floodplain zoning district, 190 Offshore Shipyard Road, Venice, Louisiana. Councilmember Williams. F, Lee McLean Venice Blue Crab LLC new camp in a floodplain zoning district, 188 Offshore Shipyard Road, Venice. Councilmember Williams. G, Jason Nakan new camp in a floodplain district, 322 Grand Bayou Way, Port Sulphur. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. H, Highway 23 Property LLC George Smith Fireworks Stand Renewal, 9418 Highway 23, Belle Chase. Councilmember Juneau. I, Melvin Riley Produce Farms Business Occupancy in an A-2 zoning district, 29673 Highway 23, Port Sulphur. Councilmember Trufant Salvant. And J, Crescent Excavation Hung Musselman Business Occupancy in a floodplain zoning district for equipment storage yard, Highway 23, lots 55 and 56, Point Celeste. Councilmember Trufant Salvant.
I'll offer. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Salvant. Everyone is in compliance? Ms. Rose? Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. All these permits pass 7-0. Next item.
Introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Have none.
Mr. Black? Mr. Lapine? Okay. Mr. Juneau? You have it? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lapine.
An ordinance to annul, rescind, and set aside ordinance number 05223 adopted August 11, 2005, and ordinance number 12-60 adopted March 22, 2012, with both provided for no parking sign from the corner of Highway 23 down I, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan by appropriating $79,300 to the Drainage Good News Project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Yep. That's it? Ms. Salvant?
I have none.
I have 3. In ordinance to approve the requested changes per ordinance 18-71, amending Rule 4, merit increase, Section 4.1 of the Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission rules adopted by ordinance number 96-133, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. In ordinance to approve the amended pay plan and classification schedule adopted by the Civil Service Commission on July 6, 2018, to create the new classifications of public groundskeeper/lifeguard, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2018 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, interim employee training department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That is all that I have. Next item.
Madam Chairman, before you
Yes.
move, I have one.
Okay, Mr. Badali.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, swimming pool day event department, otherwise to provide respect thereto. That's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Next item, please.
6A1, an ordinance by the Plaquemines Parish Council as and on behalf of the West Bank Levy District and Buras Levy District to appropriate new perpetual flood protection levy, flood wall and drainage ditch easements, and new temporary work area easements in certain portions of lands in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to construct the New Orleans to Venice West Bank Hurricane Protection Levy Project, NOV-09, St. Jude to City Price, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, for levee, flood wall, drainage, flood access, and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I offer.
Ms. Salvant offers, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Roussel. Ms. Salvant?
Yes, as you guys know, this is just a continuation of the NOV levy protection, mainly for my area, which includes St. Jude to City Price, Polder, and it's just a continuation. We've been adopting this throughout the last year or so, and we're just hoping that we can get this protection in place, so I'm asking for everybody's support on this issue.
Okay, Ms. Salvant. Questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation is adopted 7-0. At this time, at the request of Councilmember Black, we'd like to move to item 6L on the agenda.
An ordinance to amend the 2018 operating expenditure budget, various funds, various departments, various line items, and the 2018 General Fund Maintenance Department, Bell Chase Animal Control Facility Division, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Black.
Yeah, I'm going to offer for discussion right now.
The office for discussion, I'll second, seconded by Mr. Lapine for discussion.
All right, and the reason why we're going to move back to changes after we make a decision on what to do. As you all know, a few weeks ago, we had an issue with the AC, as well as other issues at PAWS, lighting, roof, sinkage of the building. We have ongoing litigation right now that you all are aware of. Hopefully that will be resolved within the next 4 to 6 months, but in the meantime, the building is in dire need of immediate repair and attention. We have around 60 dogs and over 200 cats at the building, as well as, 5 to 20 volunteers on a daily basis. So we need those things repaired. We had an emergency meeting 2 weeks ago. Director Giles, Director Peoples, the parish attorney, as well as maintenance, other folks were there. We made a decision to have some estimates done to do those repairs with the hopes, and I spoke to the parish attorney, that any funds that we appropriate from the council, from the general fund, we can recover in the litigation. I think we're pretty confident that we're going to be successful in that litigation. I think it's the same type of situation that we had with the Bootville Community Center, in which we won that suit. So any money that we appropriate today, I think we have a very high, if not definite chance to recover later on when the litigation's finished. But we need to get this building repaired immediately. I had Director Giles went out and did some estimates with a couple contractors, I think Barron's and Wyman Homes, or Wyman Construction. They gave us a couple different estimates. It's pretty unclear of exactly what those final estimates are. As you know, I hate to appropriate funds kind of arbitrarily. This situation's a little bit different because they are recoverable. But do you have, I know I spoke to the parish attorney earlier today in reference to where we stand with the litigation. So if anybody fears that if we put money into a building that may be torn down, we're just wasting money. Like I said, whatever money we put in, even if it's torn down, or they deem it necessary to tear down, that money is going to be recoverable to us by the defendants in the case. I just heard from Mr. Barbay that it seems pretty solid that the building will be able to be saved. Well, we won't have to tear it down like we did with Bootville. Is that correct?
That is correct. I actually spoke to the other attorneys who are working on that and the experts on the way down here today, and I was assured that the building was savable and that we should move forward with any emergency repairs we deem necessary.
All right. Director Giles, I wasn't able to decipher exactly the total amount for repairs. And I'm not talking about total repairs. We're just talking about taking down the trellises that are rotten and it's unsafe, taking down some other the fencing, putting a fix on the roof, fixing the AC units, fixing the plumbing. Do you have an estimate off the top of your head on kind of what that's going to be?
No, what I have these two estimates, and one is not real clear. And this guy, this is Darren, he was looking at something, $256,000.
Yeah, I saw that one,
Yeah.
and that one's totally unclear. I don't understand that one at all.
And the second one, Wyman, what he did with this, he broke it down in different areas, like the awning, he told us to remove is $5 per square foot, to install a new $20 a square foot, so we have to get the exact measurements on that. So it's not a clear estimate on what it would be. Even the electrical switches, he's given us a proposed price of $75 to $250 per switch. So it's like going in there, he may have 10 switch bad, he may say 30 is bad. So it's not clear, but he gave us a price on an area where, how much it could be, but nothing definite.
Okay, well, what this ordinance does, it puts a certain amount of money into a fund for the president to then enter into a contract with a contractor to get this thing repaired. I would ask a couple things, because I am going to go ahead and change it and put $150,000 in it. Like I said, I don't like doing that without having it itemized, but I think the situation is a little bit different. I am going to put some trust into you and some trust into Mr. Barbay, because any money that we spend, we have to be sure that that money is going to be recoverable through the litigation. So I wouldn't spend money on items that are not attributable to that particular litigation in the building.
Correct.
I see some questions going on. I know it's not a guarantee that we won the case. We didn't win the case. I got that. But what I'm saying is, after speaking to Tankersley and also his presentation at the council, it seems pretty good that the case is going to turn out in our favor.
I would agree with that, and I would just add, what we will try to do, I'll work with Mr. Giles here about making sure we make these things that are reasonable in mitigation, i.e. preserving the property, which nobody will be able to.
Exactly. Exactly.
I appreciate the trust. We will not abuse.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't want to go build, fences and stuff a mile away or whatever, you know what I mean?
My biggest concern would be to get the functionality straight, i.e. we stop the leaks, stop the weather issues, and try to stabilize the electrical, because frankly, I'm more worried about safety when it comes to electricity and somebody getting electrocuted in a wet building.
Right, and maybe what I can do is I have the changes, and I can probably add another whereas, and if you want to word it for me, Peter, it'd be fine, just to put a whereas, all funds appropriated in this ordinance shall be attributable to
mitigation, if you want.
To mitigation.
Sure, building preservation is what I would say.
All right. Can we write that in one of the whereases, or you want me to, do you hear me? We're still in discussion, but once somebody writes it in for me, I can then go back, but I'm not going to change it yet until the discussion's over. I'm done.
Yes, Mr. Giles?
Yes, sir.
From the comments that you made on the contractors, those are general contractors. What I would recommend on the implementation of this ordinance, once the money is appropriated, that you focus on perhaps getting 2 or 3 quotes from specialty contractors like AC and electrical contractors versus a general contractor who's just going to turn around and hire a sub. So if you focus on the main problems, and as far as taking down the trellises and those things, you probably have manpower to be able to take down those trellises because they're falling down anyway. So I think there's a way to utilize this $150,000 to be efficient with focusing on the problems, as Mr. Barbay stated, the safety, health issue problems of electricity and AC, and getting specialty contractors in on that rather than a general. That's my comments. Thank you.
And that's correct. And listen, that was our first thought when I spoke to Mr. Griffin, but we're trying to expedite this and make sure we could get one contract in there and help and get out. But what you're saying is correct. I could get, because this guy was giving me a price on removing some smart electrical switches and putting manual switches in, and the price he's giving, $75 to $250 per switch. I'm sure I can get a contractor to come in there, just a general contractor, maybe $40, $50. So I'll look into that, and I'll get with James tomorrow.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, my only concern would be is that I understand that we want to help, we want to do the right thing as it relates to the animals. But here's the problem that I have. I want to make sure that Mr. Barbe, Mr. Giles do their due diligence, and we don't have a repeat of Bootville Community Center.
Exactly.
You know? And I'm a firm believer of, even though this money may be retrievable, Mr. Black, but I would prefer seeing us invest less than more and retrieve less than more. So if there's a sound building there that we can just repair at the minimum, go for it. But just as a lot of those buildings back there in a government complex that's initially should have been torn down, you know, but we still carried them on for whatever political reasons and pretend that it wasn't, you know, things wasn't there, that is still there. There's a mold problem back there on the government complex. So, you know, I just want to make sure that that you guys do your due diligence and not repeat what happened at Bootville Community Center. In the end, we had to tear that building down anyway.
Yeah.
Ms. Sullivan, yeah, look, I totally agree with that, and that's why 2.5 weeks ago, I asked for specific estimates. I haven't gotten specific estimates. So I'm in a situation now that we need to get it done. I don't want to give them $150,000. I really don't. I don't want to give them $150,000 arbitrarily without any specifics on how much it's really going to cost and what really needs to be done. I'd rather just give them the money they need, whether it be 70 or, I don't know. But I just don't have that information, and we can't afford to wait any longer without getting the repairs done. The repairs,
Yeah,
they have to be
agree
done.
with you. I'm not disputing
Oh, no,
any
no,
of
I'm
your
saying, I
comments.
totally agree with you, but,
Just in addition to what you've said.
yeah, no, I totally, I agree. I'm not saying you're disputing me. It's just, I wish we had the numbers, you know, and I wish we'd have got them quicker. So, because I don't want to give them a blank check. I really don't. But that's why I said we're going to put some trust in them, and if they cross us, then it is what it is. I know you won't, Mr. Giles.
I'm not saying a word.
I will, though, just for the record, this building cost over $3.2 million. So when you have a building that's leaking and cracking, and God knows what else is wrong with it, $150,000 isn't going to do a lot, but we are going to look into, as Councilman Roussel said, look into specifics and try to maybe just do some mitigation patchwork.
Well, that's what I'm asking for. So, and the reason why we did $150,000, and I wish, I'm not sure if anybody in staff briefed you, but both of the gentlemen sitting at the table were at the meeting. So was the Director of Administration, was at the meeting. And we had an agreement, and we came to a conclusion that $150,000, since that was the cap on the bid process, that's what we would go with. And we all also thought, to include the superintendent of maintenance, that $150,000 would be more than sufficient. So I don't care if the building costs $100 million. Everybody that was in that room, who are all within this government, thought that $150 was appropriate, especially with the bid law. So I'm not sure where you were going with that, but $150,000 is probably way more than enough, because we'll know the finalization of this litigation within the next 4 to 6 months, as told to us by Peter. So that's all. Do we have that new language? If you can remove your second, I'll
remove my second.
All right, I'll offer with changes. Okay. All right, changes on line 7 shall read, whereas all funds expended shall be for mitigation purposes only, and how you want to word that, Peter? And pertaining to the litigation?
Just building preservation.
Okay. So line 7, whereas all funds expended shall be for mitigation purposes only and building preservation. Okay, and then line 18, it's 150,000. Line 21 is going to be 001-general fund. Line 22, public awareness, 510.005, salaries and wages. 23, 460-2200, public awareness, 517.005, group insurance. 24, 465-2215, safety, 510.005, salaries and wages. 25, 465-2215, safety, 517.005, group insurance. 26, 529-2580, human resources, 510.005, salaries and wages. 27, 529-2580, human resources, 517.005, group insurance. 28, 268-3600, maintenance, general, 510.005, salaries and wages. 29, 720-4350, permits, 510.005, salaries and wages. Line 30, 760-4410, drainage, stock shop, 510.005, salaries and wages. 31, 770-4500, flood control, general, 510.005, salaries and wages. That's all I have for the changes. I just do want to add that all of the funds, I want to applaud the finance department for their quick work and diligence on this. This is all funds from positions that were not filled over the last 7 months. So that was money that was going back, that's not appropriated for anything else. So it's not like that was money appropriated for operations. It was money that was appropriated for positions that just hadn't been filled during that time frame. So it doesn't affect us operationally in the operational budget.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, my concern is that one of those positions being considered to be reinstated at any given point in time by the administration.
I think this is just for the money from January to July
Yeah.
that was appropriated.
Yeah,
So
the
if they
money's-
hire going forward, the money's still been
money's still there.
budgeted.
Yeah, but I'm still asking the question, has any one of these positions been considered for reemployment?
That would be civil service.
Yeah. Y'all have administration? If not, it's no problem.
But even if it did, it
But-
doesn't matter.
Right. The money's
Because the
still going to be
money's still
budgeted for them to be hired.
Yes.
So the money's still going to be there if we do hire somebody. Any other questions or comments from the table?
Let me answer. Y'all have a comment? No? All right, go ahead, no.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the audience? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll second the changes. There are no further questions or comments from the table of the audience. We'll put this to vote. Legislation passes 7-0.
And thank you. Just give us an update, Director Giles, please, whenever y'all have the work started. Thanks.
Let's revert back to 6A2.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of property of a portion of plots 24 and 25 Bell Chase Plantation, Section D, Parish of Plaquemines, into lots 24A, 24B, and 24C, Bell Chase Plantation, Section D, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated May 18, 2016, revised August 31, 2017. Though not having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Juneau?
Yes, I had a substitute, Mr. Mitra. Can I get a second?
You want to offer with substitute?
Yeah, I want to offer with a substitute.
Seconded by Mr. Lapine. Can you read the substitute?
Mitra, you want to read it, or Barbara, you can read it?
The changes to this, the substitution for this ordinance is, when it was originally introduced, there was only a preamble. So now we have the full ordinance written as follows. Whereas John A. Panapinto Jr. and Bonnie Longwell Panapinto are the owners of property situated in Belle Chase, being a portion of plots 24 and 25 Belle Chase Plantation, Section D, Plaquemines Parish, State of Louisiana, is more fully shown on the plan and plat of re-subdivision by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated May 18, 2016, revised August 31, 2017, a print whereof is annexed hereto and made part hereof. And whereas John A. Panapinto Jr. and Bonnie Longwell Panapinto, as the owners of said property, has proposed the re-subdivision of property, a portion of plots 24 and 24 Belle Chase Plantation, should be 25 Belle Chase Plantation, Section D, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 24A, 24B, and 24C, Belle Chase Plantation, Section D, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as more fully shown on said plan. And whereas all streets, utilities, drainage structures, and other improvements shown on the aforementioned plan and plat of survey are in place, and whereas the owner understands that he and subsequent owners of the property will be responsible for the maintenance of future and all existing non-dedicated streets, roads, and rights-of-ways, utilities, drainage structures, and other improvements shown on the aforementioned plan and plat of survey are in place. And whereas the Plaquemines Parish government accepts no responsibility or liability for the construction, maintenance, or improvements of any future or now existing non-dedicated streets, roads, rights-of-ways, utilities, drainage structures, and other improvements that may be shown on the aforementioned plan and plat of survey. And whereas the owner and subsequent owners of the property shall be responsible for the construction and maintenance of future and all existing non-dedicated streets, roads, rights-of-ways, utilities, drainage structures, and other improvements that may be shown on the aforementioned plan and plat of survey. Now therefore be it ordained by the Plaquemines Parish Council that, Section 1, the aforesaid plan of re-subdivision of property of a portion of plots 24 and 25 Belle Chase Plantation, Section D, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to lots 24A, 24B, and 24C, Belle Chase Plantation, Section D, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plat and plan of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated May 18, 2016, revised August 31, 2017. A print whereof is annexed hereto and made part hereof is hereby approved, and the approval of the parish president, directors, and appropriate parish departments, heads of the aforesaid plan and plat of survey or survey be ratified. Section 2, the parish president be and is hereby authorized to appear before a notary public and execute the approved aforesaid plan or re-subdivision of owner as depicted on plan and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., May 18, 2016, for the parish of Plaquemines and the Plaquemines Parish government, and to execute any and all acts and documents necessary and proper in the premises to give full force and effect to the aforesaid ordinance. Section 3, the Plaquemines Parish government accepts no responsibility or liability for the construction, maintenance, or improvements of any future or now existing non-dedicated streets, roads, rights-of-ways, utilities, drainage structures, and other improvements that may be shown on the aforementioned plan and plat of survey.
Okay.
Section 4.
You don't have to read Section 4.
Okay.
You offer with those changes?
Offer with those changes.
Mr. Juneau offers with those changes. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Lapine. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 7-0. Next item, please.
Thank you.
(6A3). An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference and which is paragraph thereto with reference to application number 2018-310 dated June 4th, 2018.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
Offer as written.
Councilmember Bartholomew offers as written. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Juno. Any questions or comments? Oh, Mr. Bartholomew, you want to elaborate or just offer as read?
Offer as read unless somebody has comments.
Offer as read. Is there any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? You have a question? No? From the audience?
Where is this at? St. Thomas.
Huh? St. Thomas?
I mean, St. Martin. You're in London.
And then what's the purpose of this zoning change?
No, this is St. Thomas.
Well, I know it says St. James. That's what we-
But what's the purpose for this?
Multi-purpose building.
Oh, okay.
This is it?
That's the same place.
Right.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hearing
Remove
none,
my
the
second.
machine...
Remove
Oh,
my
please.
second, yeah. This is to amend.
Can I go open it up for discussion?
Well, we had it open for discussion. Questions or comments? Mr. Edwards got up. So now we're going to go to a vote. Mr.
I remove my second.
Looking at the agenda, y'all know to kick it out. Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
council members, are we talking about the zoning for the
Yes, sir.
St. Thomas community?
Yes,
to
sir.
build fourplexes?
This legislation is to approve the rezoning. There is another one on the agenda to deny it. If this one fails, we would move to the one to deny.
Okay, this one is strictly to approve.
This one is to approve, yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes. Irvin.
I withdraw.
Oh, withdrew? Oh, I'm sorry, this is not even up for discussion.
No.
Mr. Juno has withdrawn his second. So I'm going to reoffer this. It's offered by Mr. Bartholomew. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll offer a second for
For
discussion.
discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Audrey's going to offer a second for discussion purposes only. Okay. There will be no vote.
I'm Blake Jones. I'm privileged to make the initial presentation. We have three other folks, but I'll try to be as brief as possible.
Let me remind you that you're limited to 5 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. I have four other people, and I'll try to take a little of their time, but not too much, if
Okay.
that's okay.
Thank you.
We have presented you with a packet, I believe, gotten today. What we're looking to do is to move down from where we were before. You all had something before you. We had the zoning commission tell us to move from the earlier place. I believe Reverend Thomas was the District 1 council person, and if I recall correctly, what he did was to ask us to move farther down river. We had three locations in mind. The one that we resolved to pursue is the one that he had personally recommended. I believe in Devant, I think I'm quoting him from page 74 of the Development Board. I was totally in support of this multifamily unit in the area called Devant. Catholic Charity has a property in Devant. And then, and again, some of your concern is that an area that would have been perfect for that area, I'm 100% in support of it. So we took his suggestion, and we're back before you today to ask your consideration in regard to what the member of the zoning board from that area did, in fact, ask us to do. What we have, of course, is a request to go from A1 to RM2, I believe. Is it A2 to RM2? And what we're attempting to do is to grossly improve the housing quality of the east bank of the parish. What we have is a 44-unit apartment design that is basically in response to what they call a NOFA, the Louisiana Housing Corporation. We bid on it, and we were the successful bidders to construct the facility. The principal reason that this is available and why it has not had the kinds of quality housing that you are used to is that the FEMA requirement of a 17-foot rise has kept a lot of people from being able to build and do what they wanted to do to repopulate this area. So our purpose is in taking 44 units, 36 of which will be available for the people who are currently living and working in the area, people who work at the jail. We can have deputy sheriffs there. We can have other folks there. Our principal purpose, though, is to try and accommodate those folks who have handicaps and to provide for reasonable accommodation. This is really where we're going with this. We want to make sure that those folks will have an opportunity for safe, secure housing. Well, we have, I believe, 130, 40 mile an hour issues. We have everything is sprinkled. We have lifts for handicap. We have our handicapped areas wide. I have Mr. Silbernagel, our architect, who can show you this, and he might be able to hold something up, and I'm going to ask him to speak in just a moment. What we're really trying to do is to get the various folks who are already there into safe and secure housing, people that are tripping over each other in 2 or 3 family units in one trailer that really needs to have its improvements areas so that we can basically have quality housing. You can see the design, and certainly he can respond to that. Between then and now, we had another problem. We really just came in and said, well, we have 2 or 3 letters from council persons asking for this up in Baton Rouge, and basically we thought it would work. And frankly, we found that the folks here wanted a better look at this. So what we did was we went back. We've had now 3 town meetings, 2 different approaches with the zoning board, and the over 300 signatures for people in the area. This tells me that this is a wanted and needed project in this area. I'll be glad to provide these to you on email should you request, and we'd be glad to do that. On top of this, we have some other issues as they would relate to the basic housing that we have. See if I can find the housing issue that we have.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you, I'm sorry, but your 5 minutes are up. Can you kind of wrap it up, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So the other gentleman can speak?
I only would point out, this is Mr. Silbernagel. Perhaps I could reserve a couple of minutes and let him take 2 or 3 minutes.
You can't come back to the podium once you leave, so I'm sorry.
All right, then maybe with your permission, I could point out that in your packet, there are some Fair Housing Action Center issues that basically give us what we're trying to do, which is to provide for reasonable accommodation pursuant to the basic federal housing law. This housing supply is necessary, and we think it would provide much needed accessible housing for people with disabilities in the parish. If you think that you might need more time to review this, because this is a matter of federal law, that this be available to folks if it is fundable, which it is, we would ask that you give us a couple of weeks or perhaps to extend the courtesy. I believe Councilmember Bartholomew did this once before. So without further taking more time, I'd give you to Mr. Silbernagel, who will show you a little bit about the quality that we have.
Yes, my name's Charles Silbernagel. I'm with CLS Architects, and what we have is we're proposing 11 buildings, and each of these buildings will have a 2-bedroom and 2-bath units and 2 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. for a total of 44 units. Out of these units, 7 of them will be ADA, and all the units will, again, meet the reasonable accommodations of the Fair Housing Act. All 11 buildings will be elevated, as y'all can see in this rendering right here. Each of these buildings will be provided with lifts. We're also going to be designing for all the Energy Star and the Enterprise Green requirements, which will make each of these buildings and units efficient and affordable on their utility rates. We're also going to be designing the buildings in order to meet all the high wind criteria of the area, as well as each building will have their own sprinkler systems. And we also will have the exterior materials will be selected in order to have little or low maintenance during the life cycle of the buildings. On this board here is the general site plan that we're doing. As you can see, I don't know if y'all can see it from there, but we have the cemetery in this area here, and we're proposing to come up the side and wrap around the back of the cemetery with the 11 buildings. On the third board right there is the overall layout of of each building, and you can see, as indicated in red, the perimeter buildings, the outside buildings will be the 3 bedrooms, and the interior ones will be the 2 bedrooms, and you'll be able to see in this illustration, illustrated in red is the accessible routes that would be provided for each of the structures. If you have any questions?
Mr. Levine?
Do you have a backside picture of it? Is there a secondary exit out the back?
There's no secondary exits out the back due to the sprinkler system on the facilities.
And that pass fire code without a second exit? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any other comments from anyone in the audience?
Oh, yes, please. I don't know if the gentleman was talking about me when he was talking about the person on the zoning board. Were you talking about me?
Reverend Thomas?
Yeah, no, my name is Reverend Edwards, not Thomas. And the reason why I say that, because my name has been used throughout this project, and so it was used in a negative way. After I voted no for this, and based on what the people in Brickway said they didn't want in the community, Dr. Saints and some of these people going around saying that I voted for Perez them to have housing in their area and not voting for community people, and I'm very concerned about my reputation. What I told the gentleman, whoever called me, is that it was my understanding that originally that they was going to put this in the St. Thomas area, but I also say that based upon the community support of it. So I don't want them to use that they're doing this strictly because Reverend Edwards supported it, to saying that I led this project. And so I don't like my name being misused, because it's been really misused with this project, you know, and I have a reputation. I live in this community, and I'm going to have this group in here. I've always been for public housing. I worked for Housing Authority and been an advocate for housing for years, and will continue to. But I will say that's based on what the community wants. So I don't want these people to use Reverend Edwards' name like I endorsed this project. I created in no way, form, or fashion. Whatever the community wants, that's what it be. So I just want to state that for the record, because it's my name being thrown all about around this project in a negative way.
Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Is there any other? Mr. Ned? Oh. Yeah, he's going to go, yes.
My name's Bill Heineman. I'm Blake's partner in this project. I actually had something different to state, but I might add that to refute what the gentleman just said, I would call your attention to page 74 and 75 of the shorthand reporter's notes of the Plaquemines Parish Development Board in December. Quote, "And I was totally in support of this multifamily unit in the area called Devant. And again, some of your concern, but that is an area that would have been perfect for that. I'm 100% in support of it." It's a quote.
Well, that's not a debate. We're talking about the legislation here on the table. We're not here to discuss who's concerned and things of that nature.
Got you. We feel like we've got a excellent project. I think we're providing housing that's needed for the people. I believe Blake pretty well covered everything. We moved the project at the request of the Development Board. We did basically everything we were asked. I'm going to repeat what Blake said because he didn't read it carefully. We are asking you look at our request as a request for reasonable accommodation pursuant to the requirements of federal law. This housing will supply necessary, much-needed, accessible housing for people with disabilities in this parish. We are happy to provide you with any additional information you may need to evaluate this request. If you're not inclined to approve our request at this time because you need more time, please defer on this action so we can supply you with whatever additional information you may request. We are here to provide you with any and all information that you would need to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Sir, you said that at the recommendation of the Development Board, you're presenting this project?
The Development Board, when we went before them in December, felt that the location in Braithwaite was inappropriate for this project. And it was recommended to us that we go, quote, down the road, close quotes, below White Ditch, and that we would meet a favorable reception. We moved the project. We spent a heck of a lot of money doing this, and we believe we have done everything that we have been asked.
Okay, I just want to let the record reflect that the Development Board meeting on July the 10th, the board recommends that this petition is denied.
That is correct. I was referring to the Development Board meeting
In December. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Mr. Ned?
My name's Hosea Ned, former councilperson here in Plaquemine.
Yeah.
Former councilperson here in Plaquemine. I started volunteering with this project several months ago. Went to the Louisiana Housing Corporation. That particular board supported this project without opposition. Did a lot of research to determine the need in Plaquemine. The need is tremendous. I've heard several people say that certain citizens didn't want the project. So I personally went throughout the community, and the result of that was that stack of names. So what I'm saying to y'all today, there are very few people who oppose this. Most of the people want it. They want it. Mr. Patala knows he wants it. Mr. Edwards knows he wants it. And I think everybody in the room knows that they want it, and it's needed. It's needed. Earlier, we were talking, a few minutes ago, talking about pets, elevating buildings. These are human beings who are from this parish, that want a better way of life. Crime, not a factor. We're talking about elderly people, disabled people, no crime. People coming from New Orleans, forget it. Most people in New Orleans don't know the event exists. All this is bogus. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling you is this thing is required, it's needed, and I've been an advocate even when I was a council person. And I think I've been all over the state, and these things are being built. They say, well, they're coming from New Orleans. If you go on Orleans Avenue, Claiborne Avenue, Earhart, absolutely beautiful places, hundreds of them. This is 41 units. It's not going to affect anybody at all. As we speak, we're spending millions of dollars elevating houses here on the East Bank, of which most people don't even live there. No one's commenting. I mean, tremendous amount of money. Once again, this project is needed. People want it, and this document proves it. I personally spoke to them. We had a couple of other meetings, but I personally went out and spoke to these people, and they're in the community, and what they expect is representation. That's what they expect. And I'm telling you, these people want this, and they need it, and I know everyone sitting here knows that as well.
So it's a guarantee that it will be local residents that are going to be occupying these units?
Let me, that's a good question. There are no guarantees. And so when someone says, they may come from New Orleans, 2 weeks ago at the zoning board meeting, Ms. Braden stood up and said, look, don't build it in Plaquemine. New Orleans has too many. They can move to New Orleans and use those. Most people never heard of David, and I hate to tell y'all, I'm from Plaquemine.
All right.
They're not interested, so that is something to raise, but obviously there's a process. The government has a process.
Yes, sir.
We have to follow the process, but I would surmise that the chance of someone coming from New Orleans or some other place is slim or none. What you're going to have are people in the community, whether it be from Port Charles or Bouville, wherever. Those are the people going to be utilizing this place, and there's no way, and I take offense for people who imply that somehow, because you build 44 units for an average disadvantaged person, all of a sudden it's a crime. I was a council person here, so let me just say this. We built a $100 million prison down there, $100 million, wasted money. I was the council person. The vote was 8-1. I opposed it. Every council person, including Mr. Roussel, voted to build a prison. That's where the real criminals are. Nobody was concerned about them. Nobody was concerned about the prisoners down there. They're still there. They're from other places. We financed them with parish money, $100 million plus. No one is saying anything.
Okay,
All I'm saying to y'all folks is this. This project is needed. This is one indication. It took about 2 days. The good news is, I was a council person for 8 years. I know those people just like everyone else does. And I went to them in person, and those people signed the document.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the audience?
Well,
Hold on. I'd like to address Mr. Ned. I didn't vote for any prison. I don't know where you're coming from with that, because the law enforcement district was created by Mr. Hingle, and he's the one who built that prison and didn't ask anybody.
You can't come back, Mr. Ned.
Well, I got to respond. I have to because, because I consider Benny to be my friend, but I do know this. I remember this. The vote was 8-1. I was the council person, and again, it was 8-1 to vote for it. I voted against it, spoke 2 hours against it. It passed. It was a boondoggle then, and it's a boondoggle now.
I know, but for the record, I disagree with that, and I'd like to know what you're talking about, because I was not part of...
Housing, though, y'all.
Yeah,
I understand.
I'll prove it to you, Jose.
Well, yeah. No, I'm just saying, it was 8-1 vote.
Point of order, please. We're not talking about the president and the vote previously. We're talking about the legislation on the table.
No, I understand, but the reason why it's relevant is because there are comments about folks who may move there or somehow could be criminals. I resent that because I know these people, and they're not criminals. And I don't want people describing that way, because that's what's been used for many years.
Okay, Mr. Ned.
And it's not right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the audience?
Could I answer you
No.
a question about how we're going to lease the units?
I didn't ask how we were going to lease the units. I just asked would they be occupied by residents. But Mr. Ned, the question was answered.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just referring to you in a comment. Mr. Byron, you have a comment?
I'd like to, first, my name is Byron Engelhardt. I'm the constable for this district, and I also serve on the board of OSHA Task Force, and I'm a judge advocate for the American Legion in this district. I could wholeheartedly tell you that the people in this community are opposed to this project. And this, when we talking about embellishment, this is the worst I ever saw. It's almost a downright lie. If you read that document, yes, we support housing. We support housing. Of course, we need it bad. But we don't need to put our children in a situation where it goes against mental health. You know, we've accomplished a lot. Think of what was in front of you just a little while ago. The pride of Plaquemine Parish. That's what we've been building. And to put ourselves in a situation where we're going to put 4 families using the same elevator, the same stairway, no green space, no yard for them to play in, my God, it's insane. It goes against the mental health of our children. We need housing. This is not what was told us in the very beginning. We asked for single-unit homes to keep up with a rural community. Nobody's gonna, no senior citizen is gonna come from Belle Chase and live here. People want their parents close to them. You know, we need housing for our employees, because, of course, you know, we don't make a whole lot of money over here. And then Mr. Amos pointed out how bad a shape we're in with the seafood industry. So I'm going to say this, the community is opposed to this, we're opposed of it, but we're not opposed of housing. We should not settle for anything and wind up with nothing. And that's what this is, a problem. So thank y'all and thank the council, and I'd like to say one thing, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank this council as an Oyster Task Force member for you all's support and protecting and trying to do the best you can with coastal restoration and protecting our community. And I want you to know that the Oyster Task Force stands ready to answer any and be make themselves available to this government, council, and parish president at any time. And I could say that on behalf of our chairman, Mr. John Tesselvidge, and the rest of the Oyster Task Force members.
Thank
okay? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Bartholomew? Any other questions or comments?
I know I should have wore boots to the service.
Can you state your name and address for the
My
record,
name is
please?
Eric Domain, and my address is 3578 Holly Street, Zachary, Louisiana. Okay. I disagree with everything you heard this morning, a little while ago. I don't believe, like Byron said, I agree with Byron. They do need this type of facility in this area. They do need housing in this area, but this type of facility they don't need. A low-income housing project is not the answer to what they need here. I question the validity of these signatures right here, and like them, I believe, like Byron, I believe it's not right. Everybody I've talked to don't want this type of housing in this area. I'm from this area, and I love this area very much. What you've heard is a lot of, let me break it down. All they want to do is put a low-income housing project right here in Deer. If they do, these people who's speaking right now, they're not going to be the ones stuck in a structure 17 feet off the ground with 3 other families that they don't, people they don't know or where they come from. It can be open to anybody. They say it's going to be right here, people right here, but it's not. It's going to be people from all over. You're going to have a party spot underneath each one of these structures. And there's no room for your lawnmowers and stuff like that. There's no room for that except for underneath. So it's going to be jam-packed underneath each one of these structures. And you're going to have an elevator that's not going to last a week with all the kids going up and down in the elevator. You're going to have people rabbit hunting in the back, and you're going to have kids playing in the same woods. They want to put a walking trail in the back of the house. Matter of fact, my mom lives right next door. They want to put a walking trail. So you're going to have people rabbit hunting, and you're going to have people kids playing in the woods, which is a recipe for accident. And they're going to be hunting and fishing on everybody's property in the area because there's all woods in the back. They don't know where one line stops and the other one starts, so you're going to have a constant problem. The cops are going to stay down there. They're going to have outsiders and strangers from all over the world, all over the place, and crime is going to flourish in all the community. Most crime in New Orleans and Baton Rouge occur in this type of environment, and we don't want it here. These people want to make a lot of money. I know they say it sounds nice, like they're helping the community, but the real thing, they want to make a lot of money at the expense of destroying the event and the people that I care about. Therefore, a couple of weeks ago, the zoning commission did away with it. They disapproved of it. They said you can't have a zoning change for this type of housing. I just pray that you guys will agree with the zoning commission and not allow this type of housing in the event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions from the audience?
My name is Vanessa Silv. I live on 261 Bergeron Drive. I talked to Councilman Roussel yesterday, and I've also talked with Councilman Bartholomew about this issue, and we have concerns. We are not against housing for low-income individuals, that is not the issue at all. We are concerned that the people in this community are really not going to be the ones that's benefiting from this project, because we're not used to being all cramped up like this. You know, and these people, they are businessmen. After these buildings are built, it's their responsibility to see that they are filled. So we fear that people are going to be pulled into this development that don't actually live here. And just put the crime issue aside. You know, we're not going to assume that everybody coming here is going to commit a crime, but it changes the whole culture of the community. And that's what we're trying to fight here. And it's troubling to hear comments said about there's just a handful of people that's against this project. We are here speaking up for the betterment of this community. And you guys have information we're not privy to because you are elected officials. You have insight and you have foresight. You are responsible for the future of this parish. So I would ask each one of you that you would consider the welfare of this community when a decision is made.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Mr. Bartholomew? You have something to
I
say?
have just one question. Ms. Amitra, could you read me the vote, or tell me the vote for this development?
For the zoning board?
From the
July
zoning board,
meeting?
on what date and what was the vote?
On July 10, 2018, the Development Board recommended a denial of the project. The vote was 5 yes for denial and 2 no.
Mr. Bartholomew? So you don't have a second. She opened for discussion. So do you want to move on this, or do you want to offer it again? You want to offer? Mr. Bartholomew offers this for a vote. Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? You'll second for the vote? Ms. Salvant's going to second for the vote. If there's no further questions,
There are questions. I have a question. She seconded for the vote. I would like to speak.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the way I operate, and I like to see it happen in my district, sometimes it doesn't, most of the time it doesn't, but if there's a development such as this, I'd like to defer to the council member in that particular district and go with their recommendation. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bartholomew, this is his district, this is the one he represents the people, they elected him as their representative, so I'm going to go with his recommendation. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bartholomew, what's your recommendation?
Protocol is not for me to say at this point in time over in the meeting. I can't discuss my vote at the table. I have to key in. That's a violation of program, ethic violation. Because you're discussing
I'm just
stuff.
asking your opinion.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the table? Be mindful that this vote is to approve this development. Machine is open. This legislation fails with a vote of 6 noes and 1 abstention by Councilmember Black. At this time, we will move to 6T, a resolution for denial.
A resolution denying the requested map change filed by St. Thomas Roman Catholic Church, Pointe-a-la-Hache, Louisiana, from A-2 Rural or Agricultural Zoning District to RM-2 Multiple Family Zoning District for a portion of ground designated as a lot on Highway 15, Pointe-a-la-Hache, Louisiana, Section 53, Township 16, South, Range 13 East, all in accordance with application number 2018-310 dated June 4, 2018.
Mr. Bartholomew is offering with the following changes that are being passed out.
The changes are on line 4, changing Pointe-a-la-Hache to Davant. Line 10, changing Pointe-a-la-Hache to Davant. And line 24, changing Pointe-a-la-Hache to Davant.
With those changes you offer, Mr. Bartholomew? With those changes, Mr. Bartholomew offers. Is there a second? I'll second. With the changes. Is there any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? This vote is a motion to deny this development. A resolution, I'm sorry, for denial, for the development that was just presented in front of us. Machine is open. The resolution for denial passes 6-1 with an abstention from Councilmember Black. At the request of Councilmember Salvant, we'll move to item 6G.
A resolution approving the request for a conditional use by Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to construct a crude oil storage and blending facility in a floodplain zoning district designated as tracts A-1A, A-1B, and R-1 of the St. Rosalie and Myrtle Grove Plantations, Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, Section 6, Township 18 South, Range 27 East, all in accordance with application number 2018-320.
Councilmember Salvant?
Offer as read.
Councilmember Salvant offers as read. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Black. Salvant?
Yes, it's basically as read. If he was here this morning for the port meeting, this is it's just to provide the property for that blending terminal that's to be set on in St. Rosalie and Myrtle Grove.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. G, yes. Resolution for approval. We jumped over some. This legislation passes 6-0. With that being said, would you like to withdraw 6H? The denial, Ms. Salvant?
Yes.
Okay. You needed to move on to H as well?
I need to move on. We just denied H.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We move into I. I need I and J.
Okay, I, okay. 6I, please, Ms. Barber.
A resolution approving the request for a conditional use by New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, DBA AT&T Mobility, to construct a tower in an A-2 rural and agricultural zoning district located on a portion of land lying in what is known as the Louisiana Orange Grove Plantation, also known as the Dick Farm, Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, Section 6, Township 18 South, Range 27 East, all in accordance with application number 2018-312, dated June 15, 2018.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I offer.
Ms. Salvant offers. Is there a second? I'll second. Ms. Salvant?
Yes, this is basically to install a tower to improve the wireless services in Port Sulphur and the 911 system communication. This is a much-needed tower in that area to improve telecommunication for that area. I met with a business owner yesterday, and I was told that she have to go out in order to utilize her phone. She have to walk out to Highway 23 at least 4 or 5 times a day in order to get service. Yes. So if we have a gentleman from AT&T here, if you have any questions, but I can tell you it's much needed. It's going to improve the services in that area.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, just as a point of information, I noticed when we go down there, there's a tower that sometimes has a sign-up space for rent. That doesn't suit your needs? That's why you're installing a new tower or something?
Yeah, I guess I'm not, AT&T does need a new tower in this area. I'm not sure, is that the tower at Kinder Morgan, perhaps? I know that they have one, but I know that the Kinder Morgan tower is an older tower that doesn't have structural requirements that AT&T is looking for on this new site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. This is a resolution to approve this zone change. Legislation passes 7-0. With that being said, we'll withdraw 6J.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can we revert back to the agenda in order, please?
Six A4, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference, which is paragraph thereto with reference to application number 2018-319, dated June 14, 2018.
Councilmember Black, this is one you offered on my behalf at the last meeting, correct? Oh, you can. I'll offer this legislation. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lapine. This was approved by the zoning board, recommended approval for the petition to go from rural agriculture to a multifamily development. Mr. Bonadonna, I don't think he's here. He isn't here. This is just to build some structures, some camps that he's wanting to put in the area, and everything is in compliance. He's fulfilled all of his obligations, correct, Ms. Rose? Yes? Okay. With that being said, any questions or comments from the table? Yes, Mr. Roussel?
Any objections from the neighbors?
I don't think so.
No, not on this one. No, sir.
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 7-0. With that, we'll withdraw 6-0. Next item, please.
6A5, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference, and which is paragraph thereto with reference to application number 2018-318, dated June 8, 2018.
Mr. Black? I'll offer this legislation. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Salvant. This was also recommended for approval by the zoning board, and there is existing, you want to elaborate on this a little bit, Ms. Rose?
This was an existing building across the Highway 23 from Adams.
Yes.
Someone initially purchased the building prior to this individual, remodeled it as a camping lodge, and then sold it to this company that is requesting the map change. They applied for the occupational license to do the lodging, and that's when it arose to us that it was in an agricultural zoning district and not a multifamily where lodging is allowed.
And they're in compliance, and they originally had an objection, but the lady has now been satisfied, and she's in agreement with the zone change, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and they also have the fire marshal approval to allow the multifamily lodging.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 7-0. With that, 6P will be withdrawn. Next item.
An ordinance to amend 6A6, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference, and which is paragraph thereto, with reference to application number 2018-311, dated June 5, 2018.
Councilmember Black? I'll offer. Seconded by Mr. Lapine. This was also, it's a rezoning for multifamily, from agricultural to multifamily. There were no objections to this, correct, Ms. Rose?
This was the one with the lady that had the objection, and now she's
Not the other one,
satisfied. Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
I'm sorry, okay, yeah. And they've met all requirements?
They met all requirements. They're purchasing those old school board.
Homes, and they're gonna
No,
put, that's
the old
across from
school
Hart,
board,
correct? In Venice.
classrooms.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Just for the employees, right?
This is gonna be for his employees.
Employees.
Yes, the gentleman who owns the company, yes.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 7-0. With that, 6Q will be withdrawn. Next item.
Six A7, an ordinance authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, sign, perfect, and enforce a publicly beneficial lease, commercial property lease on Lot D of the Venice Boat Harbor and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Black offered this on my behalf at the last meeting. I'm going to offer this with changes, and the changes will be as follows. On line 2, after the word proper, we're going to insert to advertise for bids. We're going to scratch to negotiate, sign, perfect, and enforce a publicly beneficial. We're going to scratch lease off, lease on, line 3. I'm just going to read it with the changes because it'll be easier.
Okay.
The preamble should read an ordinance authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to advertise for bids to lease commercial property on Lot D of the Venice Boat Harbor and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Then the next changes will be in Section 1, and Section 1 should read, after careful consideration of the situation, circumstances, and community input, the parish council hereby directs the parish president or his designee do all things necessary and proper to advertise for bids, commercial property lease on Lot D of the Venice Boat Harbor with potential commercial partners on terms favorable to Plaquemines Parish government. Section 2 will now read, any and all bids received to be submitted to the parish council for consideration. With these changes, I offer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Salvant. What this is that Lot D has been vacated since the BP oil spill. It's a commercial piece of property in the Venice Boat Harbor. We're trying to get some development going on there to bring in some revenue, potential jobs for the community. And that property is located in the Venice Boat Harbor, which was land donated to the parish, and it can only be utilized for commercial fishing, the commercial fishing industry. So that needs to be reflected in the bids as well, per the act of donation. Any
Okay.
questions or comments from the table?
Yes, Ms. Williams, I just want to thank you for considering my concerns and adding and changing the verbiage to reflect what you just
Yes.
read, because that was my main concern.
Yes, ma'am.
And I appreciate that.
I think it was pretty much everyone's concern, but I
Okay.
appreciate that as well for bringing that to my attention. Yes, sir, Mr. Roussel.
Yes, I'd just like to ask the administration that when they put this out for bid, that they make sure that we're looking for a seafood project here, and
Yes.
also include something that will allow us to reject any and all bids if we're not satisfied with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel. Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item.
6F, an ordinance approving the assignment by Bobco LLC as a signer to Point Lahash LLC as a signee, covering 3 oil, gas, and mineral leases and 1 pipeline easement located in T17S R14E Point Lahash Field, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to authorize the parish president to execute the assignments and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Bartholomew? Councilmember Bartholomew offers. Is there a second? Yes. Is he still here?
No, I think he left.
We'll defer. You want to defer, Mr. Bartholomew? Okay. He was here. We'll defer 6F.
K. A resolution expressing enthusiastic support for efforts to secure additional federal funding for in realignment of 5A.1, the segment of the NOV-NFL from Laura Seat to Myrtle Grove, and for the United States Army Corps of Engineers to prioritize the construction of this reach.
Ms. Salvant?
Yes, I offer as read.
Ms. Salvant offers as read. Is there a second? I'll second. Ms. Salvant?
Yes, this is a project that Benny and I have been working diligently on to try and work along with the administration to try and get that polder from Laura Seat to Myrtle Grove included into the transitional part of the NOV levee protection. For some reason or another, that project, that polder was skipped and it was bypassed. And I think it may have had something to do with our development of the port early on. But then, in speaking with the LNG company, we realized that their plans are to put their own concrete levee wall around the facilities, so there's not a need that we need to rush down to the aid of the LNG and to improve our chances with the LNG. So this is just showing that the administration, along with this council, is in support of this project.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, Mr. Cormier, you'd like to elaborate on this is where the $50 million was reallocated for this project? Are you familiar? Or do you know that?
Yes, thank you, Councilman Russo. I want to thank the council and also the council's selection of a good firm that helped us on this, Mercury Law Firm. Got $50 million reprogrammed to realign the levee for this area. So I want to thank the council and good example of us working together and doing some good things for Plaquemines. Thank you, Councilman Russo and Councilman Trufant.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open.
Thank you, Sharon.
Legislation passes 7-0. Next item, please.
7M, an ordinance to amend the 2018 General Fund Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget Legal Services Department and to authorize an exception to the salary increases for classified and unclassified positions currently enacted and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Black?
I'll offer.
Councilmember Black offers, seconded by Mr. Lapine. Councilmember Black?
Yeah, this was presented to me by the parish attorney in order to raise the salary of an unclassified employee in his department, within his department. Shane, you want to comment, or is Peter going to come back in?
The parish attorney isn't here at this time, but usually this is something that's done around mid-year budget review, so I don't know, but he's not here, though.
So what's your position? You want to defer it?
Should we wait to budget hearings to do this?
That's what you're recommending? We wait till budget hearings, Mr.
And I
Cormier?
agree.
Yeah, this was, I couldn't hear him. Can you?
Yeah, he's recommending we wait
All
till
right.
budget
I
hearings.
mean, this was presented to me by the attorney, so I mean, it's up to you, whatever y'all want to
Pose
do.
a problem, just to single one individual out like that, and, we coming up on budget hearing, I think it will pose problems for a lot of folks.
All right, Mr. Barbe, you presented this to me. The parish president wants to defer it, wants to withdraw it until budget hearings.
Okay.
All right.
Item is withdrawn. Next item, please.
6R, An ordinance to appropriate the sum of blank to fund actions and services necessary to uphold ordinances and resolutions of the Plaquemines Parish government duly adopted by the council and to uphold constitutional authority of the Plaquemines Parish Home Rule Charter and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Bartholomew?
Yes, the administration have a number fill in the blanks. I y'all want to defer this.
Defer.
The appropriation for,
Or where it's coming from?
Microphone.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Bartholomew. I think, given some latest developments, especially with the finding of the Mississippi River Hydrological Delta Management Study.
Wait, hold on, wait, we need to get a second in first. Yeah, wait, we
we
need to
have
get
to
a second.
fill in the blanks and the numbers.
Yeah, we can't discuss it until we get a second, but he's just asking, do you have the numbers to fill in to move on this legislation?
We might need a little more time
Okay, well-
to get a more accurate number.
Just defer? Okay, we'll defer. Thank you. And 6S will be deferred as well because Mr. Edgecombe's not present.
Seven C, District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Councilmember Bartholomew, you have the floor.
We are concerned about the water line that we had hired the engineering. I wonder if we have any updates on that with the firm that is doing the work for the water line. Reverend Giles left, so I'll defer that for the next council meeting. Also, the courthouse, just like I stated earlier, I think is still on route, on target for December. There is no outstanding component of it right now that has been deferred, that's causing a delay or anything of that nature. And we still have those pitted, no change orders yet, no change order. The only thing we're looking at, though, will become a change order for a generator for that building. I'm sure we will need to have a generator, so the president, Mr. President, you might want to get with Linfield Hunter and get them to draw it up, the specs for the generator for that building. And the reason for that, because we have elevators and everything, all that kind of stuff going on in there. If that thing ever shut down, then you're going to be hot about it like I don't know what.
Like in here?
Worse than that. The other thing, we talk about that, the air conditioning in this building, we spend a lot of money on this air conditioning. We're still not where we need to be. We need to consider either getting a new one, or another company or something, because
I think they're out at all the centers, too. I mean, they're having problems with the Port Selfer Center as well as the Buren
it's the same
Center.
company. isn't
Same
it?
company, yeah, I
So
think so.
we need to get away from that, huh?
Right.
So, I mean, that's a problem, and it's been going on. It's not only just for council meetings, but for the public. When the public uses the facility, we have issues. So we really need to look at that and develop some kind of plan from the administration on what to do with these air conditioners. And, let's see, Highway 15, of course, we still need to get that upgraded, the spots, fixing those holes we have until we get some money to relay, resurface the lower part, which has never been done in about 40 years. Because you had grass growing and the asphalt is just crumbling and everything else. And basically, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
Hold up.
Any comments from the
Yeah.
audience?
District 1?
Yes.
Yes, I just want to congratulate our Councilman John Bartholomew in terms of nobody ran against him because I feel like he was doing a great job in our community. And we just hope that 4 years from now, the community will do the same thing. Darrell Lynn Turner, our school board representative, that's the first time I think in our history that have happened. So I just hope as a testament to the unity and the work that you've done. Our hearts are saddened by Sister Audrey Salvant not coming back because she was access not only to her district, but we love also on the East Bank. And so we understand you had to do what you had to do, but we are still somewhat saddened by that and want to really thank you for that. And we know your mother, my mother, and all of them are smiling for a job well done. So again, Mr. Bartholomew, congratulations, continue. We're looking forward to you doing the same thing you've been doing the last few years for us for these next 4 years.
Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Appreciate it very much. So,
Okay. Next item, 7D.
District 2 update, Councilmember Black.
Yeah, just a quick question for Don. And I'm sure this goes for any other district too, if we ever get some additional surplus funding for drainage projects, because I know I have quite a bit of open drainages that need to be cut in my district. Do you find it more cost-effective to spend money up front to put culvert in some of these hard-to-reach areas than backfill, as opposed to having folks get in tight spaces in places they can't really get? I mean, what would be your preference?
You mean as opposed to a ditch or a
Yeah,
culvert?
right.
A culvert would be much better. You don't have to maintain it forever and ever as far as cutting it and digging it out. However, you might have some stoppages at times that you can, you can unplug it with the truck.
Do you have, I know we talked about the benefits, disadvantages of like A2000 compared to corrugated metal pipe. I think my district can afford to have some corrugated metal pipe because we don't have the saltwater issues that they have in other districts. Do you have a surplus of CMP that you need to get rid of?
I don't have the inventory in front of me, but yes, we do. We're using that right now in Belchase. Last time we talked about it, you all said we want it in Belchase. We're using it in Belchase. So if you need it, yes, we'll do it.
Yeah, there's a couple spots that I had work requests, and I just, if we can utilize those. I'll ride around with you and identify a couple of spots, and maybe you can.
Not a problem. We have finished some big projects, so now we're going to start on those types of.
All right, thanks.
question, comment. The plastic along the highway don't hold up. Tractors cut it, break it, so you need to look into that. Because what happens, once the tractors hit it and crack that plastic and open it up, the mud and stuff off the highway, the grass all goes into the culvert and close them up.
Right. Not to take up Mr. Black's time, but at this point, there's so many collapsing culverts in my district, we'll take any kind of pipe you can give us.
But plenty of yours are on Highway 23.
And I spoke to the state, and they don't have the funding.
I don't have the manpower, but if we could get, I think we should do them.
Tell them you have the pipe, they've done the.
I agree.
Tell them to do that.
We'll discuss that at a later time, Mr. Black.
We have been doing them on Highway 11, though.
Yes.
Done a
Thank
few
you.
of
You
them.
did, yes, thanks.
One more thing, and I think I sent it to Director Giles this morning. We've had multiple requests on this, and it spans District 2 and District 5, is the lighting situation between the foot of the bridge and the parish line. I only counted around 7 lights. We talked to Entergy, they telling it's us. Talked to DOTD, I'll say rep, contact DOTD as well. They came back and said it was us. So it seems like it's us. If we can get those lights repaired, I mean, they're terrible anyway. I mean, they need to be really redone in its entirety. But I mean, that's the first thing you see when you come into the parish, and it's pitch dark at night between the line and.
Don't even go there, Ms. Audrey.
Yeah, I know. I'm not trying to have a battle between. Well, I don't have lights in my district or whatever. I'm just saying that.
Again,
At
Mr.
least you
Black,
have
in
lights.
addition to what you're saying, you should take a ride through District 6 and down.
Oh, I know.
Further down. And it's ridiculous, and I'm not in favor of those solar lights that they have out there, because the distance with the poles from the highway, the highway is still black even when the light is on.
It just looks like they're all very dim. I mean, everything's is dim.
You know,
even though
so
the light's on, it doesn't illuminate anything. So.
Yeah, but I suggest that they do a parish-wide, investigation on that and upgrade the lighting.
I concur.
And upgrade the lighting throughout the parish.
We don't have any lights either, so not nothing that's badly illuminating. Zero. Along Highway 39.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Black.
Yeah, thank you for allowing us to chime in. Next item, please.
7E, update on automatic meter reading program, Councilmember Roussel.
Put your mic on.
Yes, boss. I understand that we have a proposal now, and we've accepted a proposal, and I thank you for moving forward with that. I just would like to know what the implementation time is now. When can we get a contract signed and start installing in phases, or however the proposal was submitted, I don't really know.
I believe our chief engineer, our only engineer, is going to be setting up a meeting with Aquametric, who won the bid. They were the best bidder for the parish, and so that award was made, and I think that Mr. Dugas is setting up a meeting with them for the implementation process.
I'd like to be invited to the meeting and get a feel for what we're going to do. I guess we're going to do it in phases, I'm sure, because of the funding.
No, I'm talking about I meant meet with all council members, you know. I think we all should be informed. If that's possible.
Mr. Dugas is not here, but yes, Director Basha will.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Update on Quad Pavilion, Councilmember Black.
Yeah, I had a meeting with Mr. Dugas about, I don't know, maybe a month ago, in regards to getting energy to run some poles to the pavilion and quad area. I know Bergdahl and Graves has decided to back out of the project because the contract was already expired and they couldn't do an amendment to it. Which, look, to me, honestly, I really don't care. They're out. I'm fine with that. So I think we can do a lot of this stuff through our own engineering department and legal department, but we need to get out to bid. I think we're finished with the plans. We know what we want to do. We just want to eliminate one of the quads, and we'll be within the budget. I talked to Mr. Dugas about if y'all wanted to hire a contractor outside of the bid process of that to do the land clearing and the land prep. He thought that would be a good idea. I think the president had mentioned maybe having a couple contractors in mind to maybe go and experience with that kind of work. I think we can do a separate contract outside of the bid process for the project. So talking to Mr. Jens Nielsen from All South, he said that we could utilize those funds. So if you do two separate, one contract to do the land prep and possibly even removal of some dirt to build a pond, to use that spoil material to then use it as fill for the quads, I think we can save a lot of money. I mean, I'm talking a few $100,000, which is going to put us in a budgetary area where we can probably do turf on those 4 fields, at least in the infields, where we want it at. But the problem is like this thing's just stuck, and I would love for maybe you authorize legal to get with me and say, okay, let's get this thing ready for bid and go out to bid on that particular project.
Thank you, Councilman Black, and I've already signed an amendment with the one of the contractors. I've met with Mr. Dugas on a couple occasions because, as you stated correctly, Bergdahl and Graves, after being paid, working on this for well over 3 years, being paid, I was told, close to $500,000, have left us in a lurch. There was paperwork sent to me by Bergdahl and Graves that I don't intend to sign. That would be some sort of a waiver. We'll review that later, but you're correct. At this time, what we want to do is advertise the pavilion. I've signed some paperwork on that. Pardon me, I omitted it from the status report. And the quad is I know Mr. Dugas, I got him to request the CAD files from Bergdahl because we paid for them.
Yeah, we own them. So.
Yes. Now, they refused to sign on those files, which, again, as I stated, how can we pay for something and then not have any use? Part of that, it's our interpretation that the close to $500,000 paid to them encompassed, our right to use their signature as engineers. But it's a very unfortunate event, and legal is looking into it. We have looked into it, and, but the goal is at this time to get the pavilion advertised and to follow your course of action that you just proposed, get another contractor, someone to shepherd that, pick up the ball where Bergdahl fumbled. The other thing Mr. Dugas looked into, we did pursue another course of action, and we're waiting word back from FEMA as to whether or not in this instance, and it's, from what I was told, this is unprecedented that you have an engineer just fumble the ball like this. If we could have another contractor step into the shoes of Bergdahl, or would they need FEMA approval? What type of FEMA approval? Those questions are being looked into at this time for purposes of the quad.
My thing is I don't think we need to go hire another contractor to fill into Bergdahl's shoes. I think he submitted the drawings, he did his job, he's done. He needs to be he said, I'm out of it. Well, good, you're out of it. But provide us with the plans, the stamped engineering plans, hire, separate from the bid, the project bid, hire somebody to come in and do all the land prep separately, clear the land, remove the dirt, do all that stuff. I mean, you know, get that started, and then remove it from the bid, remove that portion from the bid package, and then have Mr. Dugas or somebody in his office just oversee that process of the construction.
I'll be more than glad to meet with you.
Yeah, let's meet.
Neither one of us are engineers. From one engineer, I was told that in order to advertise, we have to have a engineer sign off on the plans.
Sounds like the engineers was your problem.
Yeah. No, Bergdahl left us in the lurch, and so, but it was my appreciation. I could be wrong because I'm not an engineer, but it was my appreciation to advertise. We have to have an engineer sign off on. They have the CAD files, they have the specs, but yeah. So, but let's meet and we'll discuss it.
All right, in the pavilion bid, when are you guys planning on going out to bid on that?
I'm sorry?
The pavilion, the bid, you said you're going to go out to bid on the pavilion. When do you think, you're gonna go
My
out to bid?
instructions to Mr. Dugas was, I want that out as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Number 8, approval of the minutes from the July 12, 2018 meeting.
I'll offer. Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. No questions or comments. Machine is open for the approval of the minutes. Minutes are approved 7-0. I'd like to offer a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Machine is open.
Bye-bye. You too.
Meeting is adjourned at 4:55 p.m.
Good job.